I want to watch this because Preach is talking about Blizzard. He's talking about his trip to Blizzard. So I wanted to watch this. I'm not going to watch the whole thing because it's like 5 hours. I just want to watch the bits about his time spent at Blizzard, and I can't find an actual video that he's made on this yet. If he's made a video on it, I haven't seen it yet. So we're kind of gonna go through the live stream for this.
Did you get one, Dan? Hey? Did you get one, pal? Now, genuinely, I do know what this is. Oh, you got yours, Dan. Oh, okay, you got yours. I haven't opened mine yet, but I received this. This is from Blizzard. This is from Blizzard.
I did not get one of those.
It is from Blizzard EU. I want to be absolutely clear. Our trip to Blizzard was not sponsored. Blizzard did not ask me to go or anything like that. I paid for the trip so I could ask whatever I wanted. But at the same time, this is just pure coincidence. At the exact same time, and more importantly, Blizzard EU, which is a different team, did not know that I was going to Blizzard US. They didn't know. So it was kind of awkward because we were like, yeah, but we can't do it because we're actually at Blizzard, the Blizzard campus in Irvine.
Yeah.
Because I was supposed to open this a couple of days ago, I think.
I did see it, Domak, but the fact of the matter is I'm never going to get those Twitch drops because they did say that only eligible streamers will be considered for the Twitch drops. I'm not going to be an eligible streamer. There's just no way. Blizzard does not like me. They have not liked me for a really long time. It is 100% my fault, and I'm not sorry about it at all. That's just the nature of doing business. But yeah, so I'm not getting any envelopes. I'm not getting any fucking interviews. I'm not getting any drops. So if you guys watch me playing World of Warcraft, you're watching me play World of Warcraft. You're not watching because you want some fucking drops.
Maybe yesterday or over the weekend. And I was like, well, we can't because I'm not here. I'm actually at the thingy. But I am sponsored for this. So as upfront as I could possibly be, I am sponsored for this. But it's awesome. It's for the Dragonflight launch. I'm going to a castle where I'm going to be teaching the Yogscast how to play World of Warcraft. Pretty sure Lewis knows how to play World of Warcraft. I'm pretty sure Lewis does know how to play World of Warcraft, considering he got his start on YouTube via World of Warcraft. But I will teach Lewis how to World of Warcraft. That's what's going to be happening. I'm going to be going to a big castle.
I do want to say something though. The thing that I take away from everything that Blizzard is doing now is this is what Blizzard should have been doing for such a long time. I don't know if you guys saw the preparations video. The sort of prepare for the next expansion video. It was done with 3 World of Warcraft content creators who were the ones who sort of gave you the what to do to prepare. That's perfect. Even though I'm not part of that, and even though I'm never going to be part of that, here's the thing. Content creators are not the enemy of the company. They're not the enemy of the gaming company. They are an asset if you choose to use them. Now, you have to manage those assets really well. You have to keep them happy, and you have to keep them informed, and you have to take them into account whenever you make decisions. But if you do that, and if you do it well, they will ensure that your company makes crazy amounts of cash. Frudek, thank you so much for the follow, dude. Really appreciate that. Welcome to the channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I like that Blizzard is doing more of this. I want to see Blizzard dive more into it. And not for me. I don't expect Blizzard to ever reach out to me with anything. I don't expect it. It's never going to happen. But I want to see people like Mr. GM, people like Preach, people like Asmongold. There's a bunch of fucking other people. Hazelnutty Gaming, Nagura. All of these people can be reached out to. Rurikon is another good example of someone that they can probably reach out to. Soul So Breezy, Taliesin. They can reach out to these content creators and get them to start communicating with the audience, because content creators are almost always going to be more authentic. It's almost always going to be more fun because that's what they do. They know how to make things fun. And it says something about your willingness to engage with the community, because so often The content creators has a much closer connection to the community than what you as the developers have. You don't have that connection to the community. You establish that connection through content creators. That's how you establish a connection with your community. So I'm really glad to see Blizzard doing things like this. Something wrong, it will never happen for me. I have called Ian Azikostas and Steve Denuser a cunt far too many times, far too publicly, for them to ever work with me. And I do mean ever. They will not speak to me. I'm not sure if we're still friends, but I was friends with one of the very senior members at Blizzard Entertainment. I asked him, look, can we do a conversation where you come onto the podcast and we just shoot the shit for 2.5 hours? And like, yeah, I'd love to. Just send this. He gave me an email and he said, send them an email telling them you want to do this because they have to okay it. And I was like, yeah, all right, cool. I sent him an email. I got blocked. So, yeah, I'm not holding my breath. I've pretty much burnt every bridge there is to burn with World of Warcraft. And I'm okay with that because it gives me the freedom to be honest. If I don't like what they're doing, I'm going to call them out for it. If I like what they're doing, I'm going to praise them for it. I've never been someone... no, I didn't get blocked by him. I'm not blocked by him. I got blocked by whoever runs the email. I can't send any more emails there. So, yeah, whatever the fuck it is, right? Thank you, something wrong. I appreciate that. But I'm also a very direct guy. I say what I think, and that's the only thing I give a fuck about. The only people I feel responsible to is you. I don't mean to make that sound soppy, but that's just how it is. As a content creator, the only people that matter are your viewers. As long as they trust what you say and they like you, that's all that matters. I'm not in this to win any favors from Blizzard. I'm not in this to win any favors from EA or any of the other fucking companies. I hate all of them equally. I want them to make good games so that we can win. That's it. That's the only real interest I have with these companies.
So let's open it and see what it says. Break the seal. Oh, it's on parchment. It's on parchment. I'll be streaming from there. It's fine. Dear heroes and future heroes of Azeroth, the Dragon Isles await, but are you truly ready? I'm not ready, actually. I haven't even logged in.
Yeah, I don't even have the game installed, so I'm definitely not ready. But I will be ready, and we're gonna have to start talking snacks soon. Because it's about that time. Launch time also comes with snacks. Chat, we're going to have to think about this. We need to get the right amount of snacks to ensure that we get some good fucking stream hours in.
No, I'm not ready. To prepare you for the adventures that lie ahead, you are invited to a small council at Dragonflight Castle. Easy. There you will be truly immersed in draconic lore and learn the art of dragon riding. See, I've already done that, so I guess I am prepared. You will work together to prepare for the ultimate dungeon duel. Am I doing a dungeon duel? Nops! 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 Nops!
Yes.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
Nops is here, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, Nops is here from the Netherlands. He's going to be here to help us organize this video that we filmed. Nops is here. What's the dungeon duel I'm doing? What's that?
I don't know.
Shouldn't you know?
No.
Oh.
I've been kept secret that part.
Easy.
Oh, interesting. I'm doing the ultimate dungeon duel.
There's still some mysteries about what's actually going to be happening at that council.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Surprises. Oh, excellent.
Surprises.
Oh.
To me as well. And to you in that respect as well. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Who's Knobs?
That's
He
it.
seems like someone that has to know.
I was confused.
Does he work for Blizzard?
I heard of a dungeon duel. But there we go. I'll be doing a dungeon duel. Then, and only then, will you be ready to harness the power of dragons. Okay. All right. Interesting. A dungeon duel. So I guess I'll be facing off probably against Dan's team. That's a free win.
Ooh.
I guess they're going to pit us against each other, right? Because Taliesin and Co's going, Dan's going. So, I mean,
Like Jari be there.
Jari's going. Oh, we haven't seen Sphere in ages. That'll be nice. Sko's going.
Yeah, Scott be there.
Yeah.
Basically, the entire UK team.
Yeah, if Lewis fails me,
Yeah. Dude.
he better not be a shitter, Lewis.
Dude.
I'll just carry the whole team on my back. Easy. Easy. But I do have something to show you. I have something unique globally. Check this out. All right, so you probably know what this is. This is
it's
the Dragonflight.
oh my god, it looks
Collector's
so
Edition.
good.
However, get jelly. Mine is signed by everybody who made Dragonflight.
Everyone. That's not a lot of people that made it.
I've got everybody on here. Mine is like. Am I serious? I'm absolutely serious. Yes, mine is signed by Morgan Day's on here.
That
There's
looks
loads
good
of names
though.
on here. Mine is all officially signed.
It looks better than the fucking Shadowlands
put
one.
their signatures kind of subtly. Not all 7,000. I do not have all 7,000 employees on here, but I've got some big ones. Tina Wang's on here. Yep. Got Maria. Got Paul Cubitt. Yeah. See, this is great. This is something I did not ask for. They went and got it for me because I was really lucky. While I was there, the shipment of the Dragonflight Collector's Editions arrived. So they said, do you want us to grab you one and we'll get everybody to sign it for you? And this is the only one in the world that exists with all these signatures on it.
Wow, that
You know
is
who
a
didn't sign
collector's
it, though?
edition.
What a scumbag.
Proper
Halinka.
collector's edition.
Halinka didn't sign it. And it's not just because we didn't ask him. He should have known.
He's the
He should
base,
have
pretty
known.
much.
Yeah, Halinka, like, totally screwed me over there. What a jerk face. You know what I mean? Yeah, I didn't sign it. Halinka was too match. He wasn't match. Lied, not everybody. Yeah, it's missing Halinka. Halinka drove 3 hours to talk to me for an hour and then got back in his car and left. What a gangster. What a gangster. He drove like 3 hours to come and see me and then just pieced out completely and went back home again. Nicholas, I did get this. They thought this was hilarious, okay? Like, the guys at Blizzard thought this was fucking hilarious. They gave me Covenant pins. And I can't even express to you how many times Ian brought up Covenants with a giggle, like laughing at me.
Oh my god, that is.
He was
Hey,
like, well, I'm sure we're just going to talk about Covenants for like 2 hours, right? We're going to talk about... Dude. Dude. Yeah, he was trolling me so hard. He really
I
was.
have
He was
Covenant
hard
pins
trolling.
as
They were
well,
like,
by the way.
If anybody will appreciate these,
in
it's
that
you. I'm
fucking
like,
collector's edition back there, you got the Covenant
some really
pins
cool
with
shit,
it.
though. Water bottle, Dragonflight water bottle. I think it's Dragonflight. It came in a Dragonflight box.
That's also nice.
Coffee thing? Yeah, it's Dragonflight merch, see? I got a Dragonflight coffee cup. I don't drink coffee, but the water bottle for sure.
No, I
That's
won't
funny.
buy
So
the
some of that
collector's
stuff we'll give
edition.
away. For sure. Like, they get...
Again, King Julian, we go back to my original fucking thing that I said at the beginning of the stream. I only buy things when they're actually worth it. Do I think that the collector's edition for World of Warcraft is worth $200? Fuck no. I didn't buy this collector's edition. It was sent to me by Blizzard. That was back when I still had, you know, like back when Blizzard still liked me. They sent me a collector's edition and a bunch of other goodies. I had some beta keys that I could give away and shit like that. But that's really that's it, right? I'm no longer in there, so I will no longer get collector's editions, which is sad because I kind of like the collector's edition that I have back there, but not enough to buy another one. I will not spend $200 on that shit.
Maybe a whole bunch of swag. I actually got charged a $100 fine for bringing all this stuff back. At least they give you a stack of potions. Yes. Well, I said yesterday, I talked a little bit about the trip last night, but repeatedly it did get brought up that I had been to the campus before. To which I had to correct at least 5 people that no, because on the day I was supposed to come to the campus, I got banned from World of Warcraft, and Blizzard called me and said, do not go to the airport. Which was, I think they kept bringing it up to tease me and to be just trolling me in general. They were like, well, you know the layout of the campus, right? I'm like, no, I don't. Actually, no, I don't.
I remember the
potion
ban
stacking?
thing,
Yes,
actually.
it was. Yes. I had been booked to go and do a summit. I think it was for Shadowlands. Yeah, it would have been, because I got banned during BFA. It was a summit for Shadowlands to talk about our thoughts and suggestions going into the Shadowlands. And on the
I
day
will
I was
say-
supposed to go, I got banned.
I will say, Pringles, the amount of people... So, someone like Preach, for example, getting a free collector's edition proves that Blizzard is no longer just looking after their WoW shells. In my case, I fully accept responsibility for the fact that I am out of favor with Blizzard. That was just... There's no excuse. The way I speak about Ian and Denuser, I'm not sorry about it, not at all. But, you know, I understand why they don't want to fucking work with me. And I don't blame them for that. I fully expected that when I said it at the time. And I stand by my words. I take nothing back. But someone like Preach, someone like Asmongold, you know, these people have been hypercritical of World of Warcraft. The fact that Blizzard is once again willing to work with these people suggests that there has definitely been a change within the company. They have definitely adapted, and they've changed the way they view the community, at least insofar as who they're willing to work with. They realize that when people criticize the game, it's not about hatred. It's genuinely because they want the game to be better. That is it. Preach also has tunnel vision about the game. I wouldn't say that, because Preach has always been, in my opinion, very balanced about these things. If anything, they're doing what they can to get their assets back. You got to win the big guns over, or you lose momentum. True. But I mean, they're not just going after the big guns. You know, they're working with people like Mr. GM. Mr. GM isn't small by any measure. Mr. GM is already a very large content creator. But if you think in terms of the overall scope of WoW content creators, they don't have to work with Mr. GM. He's not the biggest of the WoW content creators, and yet they are still working with him. I'm almost certain they're probably working with someone like Solso Breezy as well, who is much smaller than even Mr. GM, and they're working with him as well. So at the end of the day, I think Blizzard is starting to understand the relationship between game developers, content creators, and the community. Gravelord, how you doing, brother?
Which is really unfortunate. Like, the timing was not good. I mean, Sekiro came out that week, so it was swings and roundabouts, but generally speaking, considered to be a bit of a faux pas on my behalf. Of all my regrets that I do have, because obviously we could have done things better, that is one of the bigger ones. That is one of the bigger regrets I have, is that situation ended that way. So because you got banned for XP pots, we got Covenants. To be fair, I fought the good fight on the Covenants. I fought the good fight. I did my due diligence. You know, as an ex-GM, suspended, not banned, pet peeve. I think the world knows it as a ban. I think the world knows it as a ban. But yes, what a wonderful trip it was. So yeah, to put context to what we went, because the internet was fully speculating, because we did that awesome tweet with Ian. I'm really glad that went well. I wrote that. I had the picture in my mind of what I wanted to do. I thought it would just be a funny idea. I pitched it to them as like, hey, we're making this a secret that we're going, but the announcement should be something really fun that people will get into. So I was like, I have this idea where maybe Ian zings me, and you know, and that's it. We don't need to say anything. We could just put this message out with just a little video, and just let it do its thing. That was my plan. I put a lot of eggs in that basket of like, what if we just put out this video, we don't put any words to it or anything, we just put this little, and we make it an announcement to you guys, our morning crew here, because obviously I was not streaming. And I did tell you we wouldn't stream Monday, but I did not tell you we would not be streaming for the entire week.
Shit.
And let's just hope it works. I think the surprise, it was actually really hard to shoot in a way. Did you guys realize it was the Blizzard statue straight away? Because that was one thing. Mike, who filmed it, Nups filmed
instantly.
It.
I mean,
did you realize it was the
how the
statue
fuck do you not know
before
that?
You saw Ian? Yeah, okay. Well, we tried everything to get an angle that wouldn't come out that way. We really did. We genuinely tried. We were like, there's just no way of getting around it. Because the statue's not that huge, right? It's not super huge. It's big. It's hollow, which is it lets some of the magic out. It's hollow, like when you bang on it, it's hollow. But it is brass. I mean, it should make sense. It's hollow. I mean, it is fucking ginormous. But yeah, it was. But
what did you guys
really
talk about?
Like, that was cool. I loved this. I was so happy this paid off. And as some people probably noticed, Ian was very up for this. We actually filmed this in 2 takes, which I'm really chuffed about. This was just 2 takes. All I said to Ian was, all you need to say is, didn't you quit? Look confused while I'm there and just be scrolling through your phone like we're chilling. That's all you need to do. Is like, just do that. And I said, that's enough. We need it to be really short, really concise. I did have to call the crisps chips. Sorry, Europe, but...
King Julian, I rate what you said the first time. It's not worthy of a response, so I'm just going to leave it.
And then once again, I had to keep eating these things, otherwise it would have looked really fake. And I was like, they're so salty and so dry. I was like,
Hey guys, I'm really sorry there's no stream today.
yeah, I mean, there's no way you didn't know this was where we were.
Yeah, I mean, it's
now
obvious.
I look at it on a big screen, there's absolutely no way you didn't immediately know where we were.
I mean, they could have zoomed in on just his face,
There's no
but
way you didn't
yeah.
know. Yeah, of course. Well, the whole the idea on paper is that you wouldn't know, and then it cuts to Ian as a complete shock, and then we panned out to the statue. But I had never seen the statue. I had never been there before, so I wasn't really clear on how this was going to work. I didn't know whether we'd have to sit on the floor. There is a pedestal around it. But yeah, I just didn't know. So like when we got there and because we filmed it on a phone to look a bit more authentic as a phone announcement. So we filmed it on a phone, and I was like, yeah.
I've got some stuff to do. I don't actually think we're going to be back till like Monday. Yep.
Oh, this worked so well. This worked so well. It really did.
yeah.
Ian was such a star. He really was. Ian was such a star. That pan as I moved the chips, this was fucking great. That's down to Nups filming it.
I did enjoy
Yeah,
this.
like all I said
actually.
is get your phone out and just like scroll through your phone like you're chilling. And we're sat next to each other. Yeah, it was really good. The reveal was fucking awesome.
Didn't you quit?
I'm well pissed off. All I thought is like when he says that I need to look pissed off. Like fuck you, man. Like rubbing it in. I need to look pissed off. Yeah, that's all it says. I do. Look at the size of this Pringles can. Look at it. That's like the smallest Pringles can that was in the store. We went to an
Yeah, but
entire
American-
supermarket
you
to get
guys
these
have
Pringles.
the
That is
largest
the
shit.
smallest one they had. And
That's
it
a
makes my
massive
hands
fucking can.
look like little baby hands. Yeah, that's the smallest they do. America is just insane. Insane. There was 2 aisles of chips, and this is like the smallest can they did.
I never said that.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yeah, it was perfect. Yeah, but that's the size of the statue, as you can see, like up there. Getting there. The country, we couldn't handle the food. We could not handle the food, like, at all. We could not handle the food. These were the guys who looked after us for the entire week. So this is Linksy, Randy, and Lugia. These guys were just, yeah, these guys just fucking did everything for us. They did all the sound checks. They did the lighting checks. They escorted us. I mean, obviously we had a chaperone. We had a chaperone everywhere we went. We had a chaperone, which is completely fair. Chris didn't come, no. So our original plan
Mikey Randon,
was
how you
to
doing, brother?
be sending the footage back to Chris so he could go through it while we were there, but the files were too big. I think in total, just the chat with Ian was 1.8 terabytes. Because we got like 2 hours with Ian. And the amount of people who caused all these issues is obviously minuscule, and they're gone now. Can confirm they are just fucking out the door. So it was like, that sucks. But who knows what's happened? Who knows? Because all we hear is like media articles, news posts, things like that. But we haven't really heard from Blizzard. So I was like, let's go and find out. Let's go and ask. Nobody's asking these questions. Let's go and find out. Let's get in there and go and see what's going on. Let us be the people that are asking those questions. So I went in That's one of the reasons I wanted to go. And the other reason for my own personal thing is that Dragonflight is completely changing the core gameplay loop of World of Warcraft. Like, entirely.
Yep.
There's no mandatory content.
Yep.
They're going for a totally different approach. And whether or not this is the internal descriptor or whether it was just something said in an interview, but it's being called the third era, the start of the third era of World of Warcraft, is how it was mentioned.
I would say that it's a return to the first era of World of Warcraft. That's what I would say. Because functionally, from a principle perspective, so if we're looking at the philosophical elements behind the expansion, there is almost no difference between Dragonflight and things like Classic, things like TBC, things like Wrath, things like Cataclysm, things like Mists of Pandaria, even to some extent things like Warlords of Draenor, even though in Warlords of Draenor mandatory systems already became a thing with the Garrison. That obviously didn't work. And then it goes from Warlords of Draenor, that was a major turning point where we just saw the game become very mandatory in terms of what it provides. So I would say that this is more... The only thing I could see as a third era is we now have a lot more sort of story footage, if that makes sense. A lot more story things, which the previous ones didn't always rely that heavily on story. It relied on macro story, but not so much on micro individual narrative driven stories.
First era would be kind of up to like Wrath of the Lich King and Kata, and then the second era would be kind of WoD-ish onwards. Like, it's a very vague guide when mandatory content came in. And borrowed power was a much bigger factor. You know, all those kind of things. That's like the second era. So the second era is like coming to a close. They're changing a lot of stuff. And if you've played Dragonflight or you've looked at the beta, you'll realize there's a lot different. And it's going to be a weird transition for a lot of people.
Yes. That's actually something I've said. I expect the outrage, at least in the beginning, to be phenomenal. Because there's a lot of people in World of Warcraft that basically have been trained to do whatever Blizzard tells them to do. They look at the lists of things that they have to complete, and they complete them. That's it. That's the job. The job is you look at what you have on your list and you go do that list. Now people are going to log in and be like, well, what am I supposed to do? It's like, well, whatever you want to do. Yeah, but I don't... What? Where? And it's like, well, there's the world. Go run around until you find something fun. I don't understand. Fun? You don't understand what fun is? Welcome to the new World of Warcraft. That really does... It's gonna... At the beginning, I guarantee you, in the beginning, there's going to be people complaining there's nothing to do. Because most people have gotten so used to Blizzard tells me what to do. They keep me busy. And I complete their things, and I get a nice little dopamine spike at the end of the thing. And then I do the next thing, and I get a nice little dopamine spike from there. And then, of course, at the end of the thing, I get a nice little serotonin spike because I've just completed a list of things to do. And serotonin is released whenever we complete lists. That's a quick hack for those of you that struggle with procrastination and shit like that. Make a list. Your brain loves that shit. Coincidentally, that's also why they have lists in games. But a lot of people are going to be like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? It's going to take some time. Kola, how you doing, brother? YouTube in the last weeks, but I'm still continuing my membership of the Beard on YouTube. Dude, I really appreciate that, brother. Thank you. Can I make a list of things I've already done? Of course you can.
It's the core gameplay has changed a lot. There is no Torghast. There is no required dailies. All that stuff is kind of going away. It has gone away. So I want to know why that happened. Was that just like financially? The sub numbers dropped too much? Or is there something... What's changed internally with the direction of the team? So I wanted to ask all about that stuff. And then, of course, I had some selfish reasons to go. I got to talk to... I said this yesterday, but it's worth bearing in mind. I think it's this conversation. Like, Tina here is the head of all the... When I say they, it's teams of people, right? So this is Morgan and Tina. Tina is in charge of all the artwork in World of Warcraft. Like, Giga Chad. Absolute Giga Chad. Like, talking about why does the raid look like it does, because it's basically they've done a molten core theme, right? Why have they done that? Like, so it was Dragonflight. I've done videos where they considered flying to be the bastard child of World of Warcraft, right? So why now you have flight in the name and you get flying like pretty much immediately in Dragonflight. That's another big change. Like flying seems to have been this fucking horrible thing that they've had to latch onto, and you've had Pathfinder and all this nonsense, and Dragonflight is just giving you flying. Like, this is just another change that's coming in. It's like, there's no mandatory shit. We're giving you flying straight away, and the new flying system is really fucking good. Like, there's a lot of core things that have been embedded in World of Warcraft for, say, the last 6 expansions that is now just gone in Dragonflight. It's not there anymore. So why is that? Why is that the case? So we got to talk to, like, Maria. Maria is in charge of all the questing in World of Warcraft. Why is the questing the way it is? How do the stories get told? What changes are going to make in the wake of, like, FF14 being so story-driven and people latching onto it? What's her team doing? And Maria is in charge of all of that, and she's fucking old school cool. This is Paul Cubitt. This is the guy who designed Wither Training, Brawlers Guild, the first version of Torghast I fell in love with. That's the guy that made that. This dude is the guy who's like, oh, okay.
Man, they should have just kept the first version of Torghast. What the fuck?
You know what I mean? Like, this...
Ian, trust this man when he makes things. Because all the things Ian just mentioned there were things that I actually enjoyed. Wither Training. Do you guys remember Wither Training back in Legion? That was fun as fuck. I really enjoyed Wither Training. Takes me like a day or two and I'm in Shadowlands, which I don't want. Isn't that if you find rares and chests? Are you guys talking about how fast it takes to level?
Oh, they were telling us all sorts of fun things. Like in Dragonflight at one point, they'd set up a quest line that happened in certain conditions to unlock
training. Yeah, pretty much broccoli.
It unlocked enough quests around you when you turned it in that you couldn't take them all because it would instantly fill your quest log. I think they said you like turned this quest in and suddenly like 27 quests became available or something. It was something ridiculous. And they're like, oops, that doesn't work. This is a bummer. But so, we played through Dragonflight. There's some really, really good stories in there. And it was actually some of the really surprising things I found out, which won't be really relevant to the main video, so I can talk about them here. It's like all the side stories that you get in the zones, they're just autonomous in coming up with them. Like her team just comes up with stories. They have a general story arc for the main story. But if I think about the dog quest, which we got emotionally invested in Dragonflight, I was just somebody just came up with that and was like, yeah, we're just going to throw this in. It kind of fits this zone, and I think it's a cool story. Like, finding out how much autonomy the questing team had and their drives and ambitions for what's coming is really good, especially with how people treat questing in WoW and they want to make it better. It was really cool. One of the most surprising discoveries that I don't think has ever been talked about, and it was Ian who explained this to me.
Jesus.
It's something called modular... I need...
I'm sorry. Look at the picture that was taken there. Like, Ian looks like he's planning the end of the world, bro. Ian's about to own this bitch.
A lot of things just started making sense because I did not. I almost couldn't believe this is how it's done in WoW. I was shocked, and I don't think it's ever been in the public eye. I think my PC just crashed. Help! Oh no! Uh-oh. Oh, here we go. It's catching up. Yay! Nope. Oh no! Did I just crash the PC? Let me close all these photos. Oh, I have... Okay, yeah, I've put 2 gigs of photos into my memory. Hold. That's too many. Okay, there we go. Are we back? Okay, we're back. Okay, yeah, I put too much shit in. All right, this is going to be horrible, but you'll get the idea. Okay, so... This will... like, when it's in this context, this will make so much more sense. Right, let's do a little... timeline. Yeah, we don't want that, actually. We want a timeline. Right, we need years. That's what we need. We need years. So let's do some years. Okay, so we got some years. So we're at... where are we now? We're at 2022. 2022. Yeah, it's bright, isn't it? That's okay. But you'll get the idea anyway. So 2022... 2021, 2020, 2019, 2018. Okay. So, this is how a World of Warcraft expansion is designed. Okay. So, we're getting Dragonflight. We'll make Dragonflight red. So, Dragonflight started its life in 2020. Right? Mm-hmm. Dragonflight's life is like there. Right now, they're already working on the next expansion as well. Okay, so whatever the next expansion is, I can swear to you, although I did go in a room, they gave us unfettered access. They gave us more access than anything else. Okay, I should make it a random color because I genuinely don't know. I can promise you, I did walk into a room where they were discussing something that I was absolutely not supposed to see, but I'm a smart boy. I kept my eyes down, and they very quickly ran over and turned around the board where they were discussing what it was. It could have been something to do with Dragonflight. It might have been the next expansion. Whatever. But they quickly ran over and they turned it around, so I couldn't. I couldn't see what was going on.
Shit.
So yeah, GG's to that team. They went, oh shit, it's Preach, and then turned it around really quickly because we had a camera on as well. So yeah, it was a cool moment, but
it's confirmed.
Right, so Dragonflight started like 2020. So then you've got BFA, right? Or Shadowlands. So Shadowlands started like way back here, right? Shadowlands starts all this time ago, pretty much. That might be a bit too long. So let's say like 2019. And BFA, compared to the release dates, starts like back here. Okay? We'll make BFA blue. So what this means is they are already like putting what's going to be in Dragonflight like very, very early on, like really early on, like 2 years or so before you'd see the game coming out, which is really interesting because then they do something called modular design. I know Dan's probably like, huh? Yeah, then they do something called modular design is what it's called inside. One of the things that's always bothered me about WoW is systems that just seem to get dropped. Garrisons, Warfronts, Island Expeditions, Mage Tower, all these things just go away. And we always, class halls would be in here as well.
Yep.
All these things that just go away. Now,
can I just point out here, all of those systems are systems that if Blizzard stuck with them, would have by today already been amazing. If Garrisons stayed and Blizzard kept updating Garrisons, it would now be a full-blown housing system in World of Warcraft. Just by constantly adding new ways of customizing it and giving people more control, allowing people to eventually make it an undead garrison or a Blood Elf garrison or whatever the fucking case might be, right? You would have had a housing system in World of Warcraft. Yes, it's all the way back in Draenor, but it doesn't matter. It is a housing system. If class order halls were kept updated, you would have had so much more story and so much more build out of those class order systems. Like all of those systems, the fact that they were abandoned is actually my biggest issue, because those systems would have given people so many reasons to play the game if they just kept updating them.
The general impression of why that happens in terms of the public eye is because they consider them failures for the most part. Like, people hate garrisons, so we're not going to continue making garrisons, right?
Yeah.
People didn't like Warfronts, so we're not going to continue working on Warfronts. Torghast, people don't like Torghast, so we're not going to work on Torghast, and so on and so forth, right? That's the thing. So, but that's not even remotely true. They are designed to never exist past that expansion at all. I was like, really? Because that's like millions of dollars of research and development and man hours that goes into creating these things. And they have no intention from the start of ever carrying that thing forward. Now, that sounds mad, right? I didn't even consider it. I was like, that sounds insane. Why would you pour all these resources into these systems or features? These aren't systems, these are features.
It's not even abandoned, Aragos, because abandoned would be, we made this system, it didn't quite work, let's abandon it and move on. This is not abandoned. This is knowing that you're not making the system forever. That's literally what it is. You know from the minute you start this system will die at the end of this expansion. I have said this before. If you go from a cost analysis and you look at the amount of time, effort, and money that's spent on these systems, it is so fucking wasteful. Because you have all of those man hours, all of those dollars that's spent on this. And we're talking massive amounts of man hours, because we're not just talking about the guy that physically designed the system. We're talking about the coders that actually have to code it so that it actually works. We're talking about the asset team that has to create assets for these systems so that they can actually work. You're talking about the combat team and something like Torghast that has to be involved in this. The story team that has to be involved in this. So much effort and money goes into these systems, and those systems are designed from day one. They know that these systems are dying. Like, these systems will not survive. It is such a silly way of designing something, of working on something, because how are you ever going to allow that system to become good if you know it's going to die? Why are you going to put a lot of effort into it in the first place if you know that it's not going to survive past the 2-year mark?
No intention of carrying forward at all. And it actually makes sense from their perspective. It's because while we're making them...
So how are you doing?
They don't fit the next expansion, right? So this is BFA, so while we're making islands and warfronts and things like that, we already know we're going to be making Shadowlands.
Yeah.
We know, like, 2 years before the game comes out. This line should be way longer. So, like, Shadowlands is actually starting here. And the same with, like, Dragonflight is, like, coming back here, etc. So we already know we're going to be making Shadowlands. And Island Expeditions and Warfronts don't fit into what we're going to be doing for Shadowlands. They just don't fit.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a complete waste from their side of things, right? It's not a complete waste. Because they're like, their perspective is... We're still going to use the tech. So we were talking about Island Expeditions, where they were selling, like, Sneaky Pete and this advanced AI they were going to do, all that kind of stuff, roguelike generation in some forms. They're still going to use all that tech from their point of view. It's not a waste, because all the stuff we learn when making those things, we're going to implement into something in the future. Like, for their perspective, the actual technology that's going into it is useful.
That is true. So in terms of technology, it is not a waste, because obviously Island Expeditions was the first, and you can probably look at you can probably look at Torghast as sort of made possible because of the work that was done with Island Expeditions. Because functionally speaking, that AI was applied to Torghast, and that's sort of what you got there. The problem is that technology is only ever as good as its implementation. It doesn't help that you can do something if you don't actually do it. So that's the issue. If all you constantly do is create systems so that you can replace them eventually, well, what good is the technology then? Why not just then not make it in the first place? Because you're ultimately just constantly chasing technology. You're doing the upfront investment just over and over and over again. You see, that's the issue. We're talking about R&D, right? Research and discovery. So you're talking about R&D. Great. The thing with R&D is R&D almost always leads to implementation. The issue, up until now at least, I hope Blizzard changed their minds on this, but if they haven't, that's a fuck up. But the issue is Blizzard just continuously does R&D. Every single expansion is another R&D for potential future tech. It's okay, but at what point do we now implement this research? You have the technology. Can we now get it implemented into the game so that it actually forms part of the overall game?
Going forward, it's just that the style of content of you going to, like, islands to collect Azerite or whatever just doesn't fit into Shadowlands. Shadowlands doesn't have Azerite. So why would we continue that going forward? Now, that was... I don't think anybody's ever really found that out. And I was like... But from our perspective as players, it literally looks like it's just failure after failure over and over again. It just looks like failure after failure over and over again. Yeah. Because we keep getting these big features that you announce and you sell the expansion on, and then they go away. And they're not iterated on. They're not like, okay, so the things you didn't like about Warfronts is they were too easy, you know, but the premise is good. I liked the premise anyway. The premise is good.
Yeah, the premise is amazing.
Then it just goes away. So it's like, oh, well, nobody likes them, so we just gave up on them and we're going to start something new. And it comes across to us as like reinventing the wheel. When in reality, that's not the case. It's just part of their modular design philosophy. It's like, this is a BFA feature. We're going to put it in for BFA, but it's not going to be in Shadowlands. It's not going to be in Dragonflight. So then I brought up the obvious question, which is like, but all you're doing is cannibalizing your own content, right? Now you've got 15 years worth of content that just dies all the time. And I can tell you that is going to change in the third era of WoW. That is going to change. That is going to be way less of the case going forward. And it's something they've come to recognize is a big problem. Is that, yeah, we've got like 15 years worth of content that just sits dead, unless you're Dan and you're testing Island Expeditions 2 expansions later. They're going to change that. This was a really exciting revelation. So this was good why we got into this conversation, right? You can see why we did that. Is not learning about this stuff and like its effect on players is really important. So it's like, honestly, if you were to ask me as somebody who's lived here, like it just comes across as you just abandon this shit every single time and you keep trying to find some sort of niche and they're like, no, it's not our approach at all. It's just that while you're getting all the Dragonflight stuff now, internally, we're already working on the next expansion. And what the features are there. Like, does dragonflying make sense there? Well, probably, yeah, because you learned to fly a fucking dragon. I'm not saying the dragonflying is going to be in the next expansion, because they obviously didn't share that with me, but that's kind of the premise going forward. It's like, well, you learned how to fly a dragon. Why wouldn't you be able to fly a dragon wherever we're going? That doesn't make sense. You know, it's just not logical. It doesn't fit.
It has to be. It has to continue.
So there's that's something else that's changing.
It has to continue.
The next thing that's changing that I could talk about here, I have to be careful because there's a lot of. Obviously, I know a lot more than I'm telling you now, but story-wise, I had a really good conversation with Ian and John Height on this.
Yeah, I'm listening. Stories, bro. You're saying my things.
Previously, the stories, which have been kind of hard to get into for many of us, everyone laughs at the jailer, including me. I was like, lol, 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 lol. I did bring up the name Emmett Selk. How could I not? How could I not? I did bring up the name Emmett Selk. So, you know, we had that. Of course I did, right? I like I say, there's no holding back here. Honesty is too important when you have these moments. But now they're kind of going to look to make a multiple expansion story arc that people can get into and be excited for the next thing. And I was like, thank.
Bro, I have been saying this since fucking Legion. The problem with World of Warcraft's story is rush. Every single story either gets completely forgotten because they don't have time to get to it, or they rush it. If you want evidence of this, look at the final patch for Battle for Azeroth. We finally get N'Zoth. N'Zoth is free. And then N'Zoth gets ended in the exact patch that he comes out in what can only be described as one of the worst, worst endings for a massive planetary threat that is N'Zoth. And I've said this for so long. What Blizzard needs is a continuous thread. So it's such good news to hear that they're finally latching onto this. You need a story, or stories, really, that you already start in Dragonflight. And those stories are gonna have moments that they sort of reach climaxes throughout the course of Dragonflight. But they're not gonna have conclusions in Dragonflight. Their conclusions are going to take place in the next expansion. And the next expansion, by the time we get these major conclusions that was already, or stories that was already started in Dragonflight, by the time their conclusions happen, you already have a bunch of new stories that is now building towards the next expansion. So you sort of have this rolling, progressive, or a rolling ball of story that just keeps building, keeps building, keeps building. So now what this allows you to do, and this is why this is such good news if Blizzard actually implements it correctly, it allows you to take seemingly unimportant stories and carry them to massive moments. So stories that in previous expansions, like for example the Loyalist campaign from Sylvanas, the Loyalist campaign should have started in BFA and then continued all the way into Shadowlands. Because here's where things would have been actually very interesting with the Loyalist campaign. Imagine if in Shadowlands, the Loyalists of Sylvanas actually still work with Sylvanas. The Loyalists are actually working with Sylvanas and Zuvul. There's a bunch of quest chains for the Loyalists where they work against the other covenants and they sort of help Zuvul. And then in patch 9.2, the Loyalists find out that Zuvul's been lying to them. Zuvul's been lying to Sylvanas, Zuvul's been lying to them. They have actually been the bad guys in all of this. Suddenly, all of it changes. You know, let's not talk about how, like, that story is bad in and of itself, but at least there, the Loyalists now feel a sense of, oh shit, are we the bad guys? You know, the story carries weight. It doesn't feel like a forgotten story that just never really started, nor did it actually end. There's an actual ending that you can now work at because you carried it through. It continued into the next expansion. So this is like probably the best news I've ever gotten for World of Warcraft. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Preach could have said nothing else. He could have just said this and I would have been happy. This is what I want. I'm sick and tired of World of Warcraft treating every single one of their expansions as an individual book that has nothing to do with the rest of the game. The expansion should be treated as chapters in a book. You have chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, but all of them form part of the same book. It's working towards a story, a magnificent end to a story. And there's nothing stopping Blizzard from doing this now. Blizzard could start. Here's where things get so fucking big-brained, people. Blizzard could so easily start with a story in Dragonflight that will see its penultimate end 6 expansions from now. Can you imagine that? Imagine we get a bunch of stories in Dragonflight and we all think, oh, this is really cool. Let's just watch this. It's not, who cares? This is a great story. We're having fun, right? Then next expansion comes out. We're like, whoa. Okay, this story continues. Okay, there's more things here. The plot thickens a little. Third expansion comes out. Okay, plot thickens a lot. There's now so many more elements to the story. This story is really branching out into just a number of avenues. By expansion 6, everyone is at the edge of their fucking seat, just wondering, wait, when, like, what the hell is going to happen? We've had this story now for 6 expansions. We've built upon this story. It's finally coming to a head now. What is actually going to happen here? That is what I want to see for World of Warcraft. I said this way back in Legion. This is what Blizzard needs to do. We need multiple expansion stories. Stories that sort of carry over and build. Fuck! I'm glad I'm watching this because this makes me happy. This makes me happy.
There's Deathwing and all that kind of stuff. Garrosh is back and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's like... Did you ask about the plans this Warcraft 3? No, I wasn't there to troll. I was very serious, right? I was very serious about this stuff because I care about this stuff. The reason I even gave it a chance is we're no longer, like, financially tied to World of Warcraft, which is very freeing, and I thank you all for that.
Andy, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that the people that got the original plot would have quit, because the people that started the game most likely because of that story, because that's exactly what Final Fantasy does. It is quite literally what Final Fantasy does. Final Fantasy started their original story all the way back in 2.0. And it has been carrying on all the way up until Endwalker. And there are people that started playing Final Fantasy in Shadowbringers because so many people are saying, dude, the story is insane. You have to check it out. You have to see the story. So people came for the story and they stayed for the gameplay and for all other reasons. You know, some people stayed, some people didn't. Really doesn't matter. But stories are important, and you have to give stories time to breathe, because sometimes a slowly told story that builds gradually into something big will be far more impactful than a story that starts like 2 years ago and then ends, because you get rushed storylines, you get storylines that doesn't make a lot of sense because the developers had to rush. It's all sorts of crap, and no one cares about it. So I love this. This is exactly what I want to see from Blizzard moving forward. Exactly what I want to see from Blizzard moving forward.
So I had the freedom to like ask these questions without worrying about what would happen going forward. So we could all be very honest. Like, you have to be honest in these conversations. And I think that's one of the reasons I would hope that we got in there is, like I said, me and Ian have definitely not seen eye to eye on very specific niche stuff in the game. As is well known, but we both treat each other with respect and fairness and the opportunities coming through. And we've never been that abusive content creator. You know, we're not a shill and we're not rage clicky. We've never been that. We've always been fair. So I think that's one of the reasons we got to do this, is doing that. So it's pretty good. So we get a novel per patch then. It's more about, and in fact, another person who completely spontaneously had this same idea was this wonderful man here. It's Mr. Jesse Cox. One of the things that I love about FF14 is I cannot wait for what happens next.
You spoke to JC as well? Fuck.
I really can't wait. Like, I've been infuriated with, like, the Hildebrand cliffhangers, let alone the MSQ. I cannot physically wait to find out what happens next. I'm, like, frothing at the bit to find out what happens next. But I don't feel that about WoW. I don't feel that at all. Like, once I've done the story or whatever, I'm like, let's go. Whatever. We'll find out next. Let's wait for the next cool cutscene and stuff. So the idea that they'll be actually trying to engross us and get us into it again. GG's. Insane.
Story investment is, as the word suggests, it's about investment. Okay? I can give you the greatest story in the history of the world, unless I can get you to buy into the story, it's going to fall flat. I need to find a hook. I need to find a way for you to care about the story. Now, in movies, they do this through the character arcs. They do this through action and combat and all the rest of it. In video games, more often than not, it's a time thing. The Witcher is amazing because it requires a lot of time. It's a slow burning game. And as you build through it, the story builds and the intrigue and the mystery builds. But it allows breathing room for those things to take hold, for you to start thinking about them, for you to start worrying about them, and then new things get introduced and you start thinking about those, and it shapes you and it grabs you. That's the whole point. Why is it that speculation channels are so successful in World of Warcraft? Why do I have a channel? Because it allows for investment. The game's story isn't always that good when it comes to investing players into it, but the speculation is. Because it's what it could be. It's that moment. Now, can you imagine what speculation in World of Warcraft will be once the story gets people to invest as well? Dude, it's going to be off the charts. The amount of new people that's going to get into the story because they're invested into it. Because the story is running at a in drama, you learn about a thing called tempo. Now, tempo, for most people, just means speed. Right, or at least the speed of repetition would be tempo. In acting, tempo is everything. It's the moment that you deliver a line. It's the timing with which you deliver a line. If your timing is off by even a couple of seconds, you can take a very funny line and not make it funny at all. If your tempo is too fast, it can come across as sarcastic, where it maybe should have been endearing. If your tempo is too slow, it can come off as fake. Tempo is everything. It's the speed with which you introduce the audience to information, to happenings within a story. Tempo. If you have the wrong tempo, a story falls flat. If you're trying to, and this really is something that harkens back to a fundamental change that happened in World of Warcraft, but World of Warcraft never adapted to the change in any way, shape, or form. So Blizzard themselves refer to this as the third era of World of Warcraft, right? Now, the first era of World of Warcraft dealt with what I consider to be very two-dimensional story designs. Not two-dimensional stories. The characters were really three-dimensional. The stories were very three-dimensional. But in terms of the type of stories that they implemented was very two-dimensional. You know, you go back to TBC, the threat was singular in nature. It was the Burning Legion. It was Illidan. That was the threat. And yes, there were like side threats, but they weren't really big threats. It didn't really matter. You were there to take care of Illidan, right? That was the story. In Wrath of the Lich King, again, same thing. It's the Lich King. Sorry, you were there to take care of Illidan. In Wrath of the Lich King, you were there to take care of the Lich King, and everything was just about the Lich King and the Undead and the Scourge, and that's it. And then Blizzard sort of, around the time, I would say, of Mist of Pandaria, Blizzard starts introducing this new element of World of Warcraft storytelling, where it's no longer just about one thing. Mist of Pandaria is about the Horde v Alliance. That's the major storyline. That's the major story arc. But thrown into that, there's a little bit of old god fuckery. There's also a little bit of political intrigue with the pandas. Now the pandas are responding to us. There's also a lot of sort of infighting within the Horde. So for Horde players, we got a lot of infighting and intrigue within the Horde itself. So now you're starting to deal with very complicated story arcs, because there are multiple story arcs playing out at the exact same time. In World of Draenor, this kicks up a gear. In Legion, this kicks up a massive gear, because in Legion, you're dealing with the fight between the Horde and the Alliance. You're dealing, and this is a major story arc, you're also dealing at the very same time with the Burning Legion that has just attacked. And of course, there's a whole bunch of sub-stories within the Legion attacking us. And then you're also dealing with the Old God threat, the Nightmare and all that, and the sub-stories that it created. So now you're dealing with a very convoluted story. However, your method of storytelling, your tempo, is still based on the one-dimensional design that you used to have. All of these arcs need to finish within the same expansion. And this is where Blizzard starts running into their first issues. Because how? Well, the way we'll do it is we'll introduce the Nightmare in the first patch, then we won't touch it again until the next expansion, where we'll go for the Old Gods. Okay, that at least gives us some crossover. It's not enough, but it is at least something. Although, we get the Old Gods in the first patch. There's literally zero development throughout throughout Legion of this Old God threat, and then the Old God threat really gets kicked up a notch in BFA. But that's just the nature of it, because we have so many other story arcs. Like, we need to finish the Burning Legion story arc in this expansion, because this is Legion. This is what we're here for. So we can't spend time and effort and resources on these other smaller story arcs, because this is the big story arc and this needs to be finished. So everything else needs to be put on the back burner. This allows Blizzard to say, okay, let's get our tempo and our pacing right. We don't have to have every single patch deal with a fundamental story. We can have patches deal with elements of every single one of these stories. Get the player base involved in the story. Give the story to them in a way that keeps them interested in the story. Not too fast, not too slow, just right. If Blizzard nails this, boys, if Blizzard nails this, WoW is in for a treat, because the WoW story is good. The WoW universe is good. It just requires room to breathe. So if they can nail this, if they can get it right, we're in for a treat.
Statue. I can tell you a funny secret about this statue. You'll see that it actually has a head on it. It's holding a head, and it actually contains a full copy of a video game that the only way to beat the game, which contains Satan, was to delete the game. So instead of doing that, he downloaded the whole game. This is a USB drive, this Diablo head. He downloaded the whole game onto that head, and now the statue contains literal Satan. Pony Island. Yes, it's Pony Island.
The fuck?
It contains the entire game of Pony Island so that Satan is contained, and Jesse Cox is guarding the walls of humanity.
Okay, so
from Satan.
Some of you may have joined a little bit late, so just a quick overview. Blizzard is basically changing their entire view of everything in World of Warcraft. I'll talk about this after, right? I'll give you guys after this, I'll give you guys a bit of a breakdown on this. But there's a lot that you need to know when it comes to Blizzard's new approach to World of Warcraft
in itself. Jesse Cox is protecting all of us, and we can be thankful that Jesse is protecting us from the wrath of hell and Hell's Gate himself. That game is fucked. Yeah, he was like, you've got to play it. It's so fun. It's so fun. You've got to do that. No, Flame, but you hated Blizzard, quitted WoW, and didn't support them anymore. Now, you're back and loving it again. No, I mean, that's the opinion of people who didn't listen to what I said. I'm not shitting all over you, Sotorino, but that is very much the thought process of people who didn't pay any attention whatsoever to what I said. It's a very easy thing to conclude, but it is entirely wrong. And everything you want confirmation on is completely still on the internet from the day it came out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The problem with the fucking internet, you say one thing, the internet hears another thing, and they think the thing that they heard is the right thing. It is super annoying.
I understand why people think that because of word of mouth and shit. But yes, no Flame. I just asked. It's not a flame. No, I hear from a lot of people. It's literally the same thought process that a lot of people who kind of jump to a conclusion about what happened is. Yeah, I stopped covering WoW because I didn't enjoy it anymore. That's it. I stopped covering it, and it was awful. In fact, you can kind of see, I don't like seeing that video again because I'm clearly like mentally
MMO,
crushed.
yes, pretty much.
I feel much better about it now because I took myself away from it. You know? I took myself away from it. But I also understand...
I'll be honest, it's not even about taking myself away from it. The reason I'm feeling good about World of Warcraft is I'm looking at Dragonflight, okay? And I'm looking at everything that Blizzard is doing with Dragonflight. And I'm looking at Shadowlands and BFA that I absolutely despised for everything that it was. I hate everything about Shadowlands and Battle for Azeroth. And I'm saying, wait, for all the reasons I hate Shadowlands and BFA, I like Dragonflight because it changed all of those things that I hated. I hated the fact that I was forced to do shit that I didn't want to do. I hated the fact that I was kept busy with what can only be described as busy work. Even when I didn't want to do it, I had to do it because the game decided I had to do it. I hated the fact that the game wanted me to play in their way, and I couldn't play the way that I wanted to play it. And I look at Dragonflight and go, okay, there's no mandatory systems that's forcing me to do anything. There's no lists of things that I absolutely must do. Otherwise, I'm just going to be so far behind that I'm not going to be able to play the game. Everything that I can do in the game is completely optional because it doesn't actually provide me with power. I can play in Shadowlands. I couldn't make an alt and just play that alt. No, because if I made an alt, I would also have to do Torghast on that alt. I would have to do all of my dailies on that alt. I would have to level my Covenant on that fucking alt, so that I can unlock the conduits, so that I can actually play on that fucking alt. I don't want to do all of those things. I just want to level my alt and then start doing dungeons and then start doing raids, because that is actually the thing that I like doing in World of Warcraft. Outside of the story, which I can get even without playing the game, what I like doing in World of Warcraft is dungeons and raids. Well, actually not dungeons. I hate dungeons, but I like doing dungeons so that I can raid. That's what I used to do on all of my characters. I couldn't do that with BFA. I couldn't do that with Shadowlands. And now in Dragonflight, I'm looking at this and I'm going, dude, I'm going to have so many alts that I can do things on because I'm not forced to do anything other than get my alt to max level. And then I can do stuff. That's why I'm excited. Because Blizzard is finally doing the things that I think is the right thing to do. Other people might disagree, but that for me is why I'm excited. It's not that I stepped away from the game. Because I can tell you now, I wasn't excited for World of Warcraft before I learned anything about Dragonflight. When Dragonflight was still just a concept, I wasn't excited at all. Because in my mind, this was just going to be another mess of an expansion where Blizzard tries forcing more and more of their fucking systems on us that I don't want to partake in. But everything that they've released so far, all of the information that's come out, it just seems continuously as if Blizzard is saying, here is your world. Go have fun. That's it. We made the world. We're not telling you what to do. It's up to you. This is your world. Go and do stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, let's go, bro. Let's go.
Logging in made me physically angry, like, because it was just such wasted potential everywhere I looked. Everything was a frustration. Everything was just totally against everything we'd fought for years and years. I remember, like, I'd fought that fight a lot of times. Azerite armor, fucking Azerite in general, essences. I had been fighting the fight for years.
To be fair, I've been fighting the fight even against artifact weapons.
To features and systems that the general player base hated, as we predicted they would. Like, it just made no sense.
Okay, Levo, you asking who's the best waifu in World of Warcraft? Sylvanas Windrunner. Yeah. Or Alexstrasza. But Sylvanas Windrunner, probably. Best, yeah.
Sense. It made no sense. So I fought that fight for many years, and by the time it got to Shadowlands, I was done. Let alone making content on it. Like, logging in pissed me off. I never even fully quit. I continued to play the raids, which I said in that video.
Yep.
If you watch it. If you watch that video, I completely said I'm still going to raid with my friends, and then I'm probably going to put it down for a bit, and that's exactly what happened. I have never been to Zereth Mortis, which Ian said was a shame because, like, a lot of the stuff you kind of wanted, we started to put in there, and I was like, yeah, well, I was fueled by hatred by that point. I was not hatred for the devs, but just like my anger towards World of Warcraft at that point, my anger was that you drove me away. I wasn't angry at the devs, but like that game was no longer for me. This game of logging in and having chore after chore after chore is fine if you can no life all the time and just continuously churn and churn without really thinking about it and just grind it out and get it done. But I'm a multi-classer. I've always been a multi.
I would say the thing... World of Warcraft in its current state is fine for people that play nothing else. It's fine for people that literally they have Battle.net installed and they don't play any other games. They play WoW. That's it. I think WoW is fine because it takes a lot of fucking time to play WoW. But for someone like me that play a lot of games and I like playing games, I don't want one game to keep me busy the whole time. I want to play WoW as my filler game. When I have nothing else to play, I play WoW. And I've not been able to do that for a really long time. No, I won't play Overwatch 2. I'm not really a big fan of first-person shooters. So, and I'm the only first-person shooters I play is Battle Royales. I love Battle Royale. But that's only because I get to play with my friends. And we usually come up with some seriously fucked up things to do in Battle Royales. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of arena shooters in general. So yeah, wouldn't be playing that.
Anymore, like, bye. That was the loss of jobs for people who worked for me. You know, that whole thing was horrible. It was a really bad... That's how angry I was. I was like, you're putting me in this position. You're
Yep.
putting me in this position where I either force myself to jump through these hoops and produce videos in an environment I don't like, or I have to go away because I'm not going to sit in front of this camera and be miserable. Like, fuck that. That's not why I got into this. So, yeah, it was all those things. Yeah, we're still here, bitch. Yeah, in fact, it got bigger than ever. That's the way it goes. It got bigger than ever, which is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. But yeah, at the time, it was a whole bad. Yeah, it was an awful time. It was a culmination of everything. It was an absolute culmination of frustration,
I get that, Reminisce.
fatigue, tiredness. Everything came together at that point. And then obviously the lawsuit started coming out, and it was just too much. Like, I genuinely felt as a human being that I had an elephant on my back.
Yeah,
Like,
I can agree with
in order
that.
to maintain what we've built here, like the studio, the 2 people that are working in there, Beck's working at home, my wife working here. In order to maintain that, I'm gonna have to fucking do Torghast like 12 times a week.
Yeah, I would say for me it was also just I don't know if the lawsuits alone would have cracked it for me. I mean, I would have still gone off with the lawsuits, right? But at that point, I was so frustrated with World of Warcraft in general. I mean, I stopped playing World of Warcraft about 6 months before the lawsuits even came out. I wasn't logging in. At all. Like, why the fuck would I log in? I have nothing to do. I don't want to do anything. So then, when the lawsuits came out, that was sort of it for me. That was the moment that I went, all right, unsub, fuck this game. I'm done. I went through my anger phase, obviously, as most people do. You know, during my anger phase, I was like, fuck this game. I'll never fucking touch it again. Screw it. And then I cooled down. And I sort of found myself, because here's the funny thing. Even though I was angry with WoW, I would still come up with theories. Like, with my mods, I'd still be talking about, like, theories and like, World of Warcraft things and possible story stuff that we could do. Like, where the game could go. And I like that stuff. It's always fun for me. I love stories, and WoW story, I'm so invested in it. I know the story so well that it's just sort of part of me. So I can't help but think about it. And I decided, okay, you know what? Fuck it. I'll come back to WoW, but I'm going to cover only what I care about. That's it. If you go on my channel right now and you look at the videos that I make, it is only shit that I care about. I don't cover all the latest and greatest, like Dragonflight stuff. My video about the leaks on the books, the Titan books, was like a week late. Because I didn't actually want to do it. It wasn't until every single person in my chat started going, dude, what about the books? What about the books? What about the books? What about the books? I was like, okay, fucking fine. Link the books. Let's see what this shit is about. I don't want to make a video about it because I don't want to spoil the story for myself. I'm sort of doing a new thing now where I want to go into Dragonflight unspoiled and see what that's like for someone that knows nothing about the game, doesn't have a clue about the story of Dragonflight. What does it feel like to play the game for the first time? This is going to be the first time ever that I play WoW in that way. So I'm really looking forward to that, to see what WoW can be like when you have no spoilers. So I haven't covered any of the spoilers. I haven't covered any of the like big moments in the game. Outside of like a few that reached me that I felt like I had to talk about because people kept asking me about it. But yeah, overall, I do what I like, and that's story stuff. And if someone else likes it, hey, welcome to the channel. If you don't like it, that's your fucking problem. You can leave and go watch someone else. The lawsuit crap didn't affect me at all. Plus, I have no respect for people who become victims and stay like that for a long time. Dogvaz, I would say there's a lot more to that, but, you know, it is what it is. It's your choice. I don't really judge what other people do with their fucking lives.
And make it entertaining. And make it entertaining for you guys, right? And make it entertaining. I'm going to do Torghast 12 times a week. And what I started to do, which made it even worse, is I was doing it off stream. I was going home and grinding Torghast out 12 times. Like, that's what I was doing. I was going home. It's like, I can't stream this because it's too fucking miserable. So I'm going home to do it. And I talked to Ian about this. Because I was like, at the time, you know, now I'm away. I've been away for a while. And just enjoying the things I enjoy, like the Race to World First and things like that. Like, it's been a great time. I get away quit, fuck that 12 times. Well, it wasn't even just that. It was like, okay, so I had to start relaxing my own scruples about how I like to play World of Warcraft. I like to min-max in World of Warcraft. But I couldn't. It was like, well, how do I reduce this on myself? I have to get like a general legendary that works for like all 3 specs, but it's not the good one. I had to start bending my own enjoyment of the game to reduce the amount of shit I had to do to enjoy it like I had enjoyed it for years. It wasn't like I had I changed what I enjoyed. Is the game changed how I could enjoy it? So there we go. But saying that, I still love World of Warcraft, and World of Warcraft has provided I've taken my kids around the world because of World of Warcraft. I built this on the back of World of Warcraft. Obviously, down to a big part of that is my own efforts, but it was built on WoW. So yeah, and a really good conversation I had with Holly, and she was really nice. It's like, we really appreciate you giving us another chance. And I said to her, like, me being sat here is because of World of Warcraft, right? I wouldn't be here if I didn't give a shit and I was a hater. I would not have spent I mean, you can imagine how much it costs us out of our pockets to go and do this trip. I would not have sat here and just thrown this money away on one YouTube video because it's never going to earn itself back. I did it because I fucking want the game to do well. I absolutely want the game to do well. I want that more than anything. I would love to be able to log into WoW and we all have a good time. Like, we're going to be doing MMO December. We're going to be jumping into Guild Wars and Destiny 2 and clearing the raids and stuff. I would love to be able to be like, oh, we're going to play some WoW today and just have a really good time with everybody. But we couldn't do
MMO
that for a
December,
really long time.
Jesus.
So, yeah, there you go. Like, here. Yeah. Holly and John are the people in charge. Play Ultima Online came up way more than I thought. Thank you so much for the subs, guys. I've got notifications off while we're talking. Losing thousands of subs because of the trip. Yeah, I mean, the untold cost is probably north of $30,000 that this trip cost us.
Jesus.
But I think that's a worthwhile investment, not only to get the message out to you guys who are concerned about the lawsuits and the entire environment that's at Blizzard. For the people who left,
to be fair though,
like me,
he'll recoup that with all of the videos that he recorded, because he recorded every single one of these conversations. How many people do you think are going to watch these interviews? Probably hundreds of millions. So there's a good chance he'll probably recoup most, if not all, of the money that he lost on this trip. So I'm not feeling too bad about that.
Want to love World of Warcraft and have fun in World of Warcraft, and to see what's changed for our own knowledge, right? To find out what's going on. So it was like, I think it's worth it. I think it was worth it for my own peace of mind.
Dogvas, no. You're completely misunderstanding the Dragonflight genre, or what World of Warcraft used to be. It's for people that only... So here's what a perfect game should be. For people that only play that one game, there should be enough things to do in that game. For people that play other games as well, there should be things to do in the game, but they should also have the time to play other games. And it seems like that is what Blizzard is nailing down with Dragonflight. If you only play World of Warcraft, there's going to be more than enough things for you to do in Dragonflight to keep you more than busy to only play that fucking game. But for someone like me, that I want to level a couple of characters, then I'm going to do some dungeons, then I'm going to do some raids, then I want to go play another game. I can do that. I don't have to waste my time with all the other bullshit. I can do the things that I care about, and you can do the things that you care about. The problem with Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands is it came and it said, Crackers, how you doing, brother? Thanks for the follow. Really appreciate that. Welcome to the channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The problem with Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands is it came in and it said, wait, you must do all of these things. So it's not that we have a bunch of activities for you. It's not that we've got world quests and we've got covenants and we've got conduits and we've got mission tables and we've got Torghast and we've got this and we've got that and we've got this and we've got that. It's that you must do all of these things. Now suddenly for a player like you, you're going, oh my god, look at all these things I have to do. Man, this is so amazing because I don't play anything else. This is all I play. But for someone like me, I'm going, what the fuck? I have to spend hours just getting one character ready. Just my Warlock. I have to spend 3-4 hours a day just doing my Warlock. And then what the fuck am I supposed to do with all my other characters? And when I want to play another game, I'm either going to be behind on my Warlock in Shadowlands, or I'm not going to play the other game so that I can keep my Warlock up to date. And so players like myself eventually ended up saying, I'm out. Sorry, I don't want to make WoW my only game. This is not my life. This is just a game that I play. I'll go play other games and you guys can fucking sort that shit out. All Blizzard is now saying is they're dropping the mandatory bit. They're dropping the must bit. They're saying, here's all the things, do it if you want, but you don't have to do them. They're just there for fun. They're there if you really want to do them. So I don't expect anyone to quit. I expect a lot of people to be confused. There's definitely going to be some people that's confused by this, because there's definitely going to be some players that have gotten used to all the mandatory lists and all the mandatory things that they have to do that now suddenly finds themselves going, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what to do. And Blizzard going, whatever. But what am I supposed to do? GoFops, thanks for the Prime sub, dude. Really appreciate that. Welcome to the DJ Nation. Appreciate you, fam. Thank you. It's going to take them some time to get used to the, let's call it, changes to World of Warcraft. But I am still excited for it. There will be a lot of people complaining about not having anything to do because there's no list. Exactly. Valak, how you doing, brother? I play only WoW and BFA and Shadowlands were exhausting because all of the BS that were required just to enjoy the game, and it made it awful to play. But I'm sure there are people like that. I'm very sure that there's more people like you out there as well.
Let alone anything else. Where's the video due to come out? I can tell you the team is working on it in that room, but it'll be ready when it's ready. It's a tough thing to do. It's basically a documentary, right? It's basically a documentary at this point, which is how we.
Dude, I can't wait for these interviews, man. We're gonna react so much.
SF is like, we're going for this kind of style. Because I want this to be podcast. And I think that came across. Like, a huge effort I put into this while we were there is to make it cozy. I cannot tell you how much I hated how wide this table was. I was so angry.
Jake,
I
you're
think
welcome,
deciding
bro.
to actually do this discussion here with John and Holly took us, me and Nups, probably 2 hours of walking around all the buildings into every room. Because I didn't like the width of the table. I was too disconnected from whoever was going to be sat on the other side. I was like, I want it to be comfier. I want it to feel cozy. But, I mean, it actually worked out super fine. Well, it's one of those extendable Dungeons & Dragons tables. I think the guys... boys?
Blizzard actually have a Dungeons & Dragons table? Right? Nice.
I think they're working on that. So they're going to send us a couple of videos that I can show you, like the layout of the offices and stuff like that behind the scenes. They just need to double check there's nothing on there you guys aren't allowed to see.
Thanks for the first chat, bro. Really appreciate it.
Give me... I can't express to you, I think this is important, how welcoming and awesome Blizzard were. They literally let me go anywhere I want. There was only one room on the entire campus I was not, or one corridor I wasn't allowed in, and that was because it was the financial department. It was where they were sorting all the money out. They let me go everywhere. Everywhere. I got absolutely
Can't see how much money we're making.
Nobody's had that access before.
Fuck you.
Like, the level of access I had while we were there is unprecedented. It really is. And we made the point. It's like, this is important because if we just do the basic tour that you can see on YouTube, there's no legitimacy to it. So, I was peeking at Mike Ibarra over his frosted glass. I kept peeking up so I'd try and get some time with Mike Ibarra. He was way too busy, unfortunately. While I was there, they actually were having the meeting, planning the next 10 years of Warcraft. Did you see the cave of the main cinematic, guys? I saw everything. I went in every single corridor, every single room. Yeah. The only places I didn't go out of choice was the Hearthstone room, because I have no relevance there, and the Overwatch and StarCraft areas. Like, if it's Warcraft related, I did not go in the classic WoW building, because it's quite a ways. It's quite a ways from the main campus. They're in like Building 6, the Classic WoW team. I would also say if you are a fan of Classic World of Warcraft, if any of you are playing Classic and are kind of interested, respond to what Blizzard's going to be asking you. They're going to be sending you out some stuff I'm not sure when, sometime in the future, they're going to send you some stuff, but I would respond because they're really like...
That's not fucking ominous at all. Like, that's not ominous in the fucking least. You guys will have to respond. There's some big things coming, and you're gonna have to respond. Jesus, that keeps me hyped. I don't even give a fuck about Classic.
Like, very open and flexible as to where Classic goes from here. So they're going to be asking you about it. So I'm just saying, if you receive stuff, you should respond. You should really respond.
I don't think so. Dogvaz, I've already had this conversation a million times, so I'll recap it here. Blizzard cannot do Kata Classic or Miss Classic. It would be such a mistake. The issue is, there is a natural end to Classic. Classic will have to go its own way. And the only place it can go is twofold. Blizzard can either go with a Classic Plus system that is a true Plus system, sort of like RuneScape, where Blizzard continuously releases new content, housing, and all the rest of it, give people all the RP tools that they need, and you just sort of keep updating the game with like activities for people to partake in, right? That's the one avenue that Classic can go in. The other is to take Classic in a completely different direction, new story, new game, kind of WoW 2, but not WoW 2. So you have World of Warcraft basically split in two. You have the story after Wrath of the Lich King going in this fucking direction, and you have retail going in its own direction, and the two never actually touch. That's really the only future that Classic have, in my opinion. Because you could get away with doing Classic Kata, or Kata Classic, and you could probably get away with doing Mist Classic. After that, who the fuck cares? Who's gonna play WoD Classic? No one. Who's actually gonna play Legion Classic? Some, not many, because it's not that far back. It's not really Classic. So not many people are gonna buy into it again. No one's gonna play BFA Classic. No one's gonna play Shadowlands Classic. And if you're going to release Dragonflight Classic, well, that's the fucking current expansion. So Classic is sort of at the end. They have to find a sustainable option that takes it into the future. That's the only thing that will help with Classic right now. And Classic is already different than Wrath of the Lich King. So if they nail WoD Classic, will be decent. Basically, what you're saying is take all of the expansions the same, but fix all of their problems. Yeah, I don't see Blizzard doing all of that in it. I don't think so.
Because, yeah. Do you want Kata Classic? Do you want something? I'm not sure. What I can tell you is that the Classic team, I met Brian Birmingham, who's in charge of... We met a lot of people who aren't on camera, who's in charge of WoW Classic. What an absolute superstar. He was just getting out of his car, and Randy was like, oh, you should come and talk to this guy. He went, this is the guy in charge of Classic. I just talked to him in the car park for like 10 minutes, just shooting the shit, and it was pretty awesome. Classic Plus, they're very, very flexible and open as to what they can do with this. Yeah, so I'd be really interested. I mean, I love Cataclysm, but I think that's probably one of the things they want to find out is Cataclysm is considered by many
Cataclysm
people.
was a fun expansion for me.
I had a great time in Cataclysm.
I just don't think it's going to be fun for everyone.
They seem to be very flexible about the direction Classic goes. So I would just say they're going to be one of the biggest themes I got back, and I know it's going to be like you've heard this before, but I can tell you from my impression, it felt very genuine. Is they kind of this third era of Warcraft is kind of going to be taking a lot of player input as to where to go, along with their own choices. But I think they feel internally like ignoring the general sentiment of the player base in terms of what they think is a good idea has been a failure.
Thank you, man. I feel so vindicated listening to this fucking interview. I have said this so many times. Game development is a partnership between the players and the developers. You can't go into it thinking that the players don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're ultimately the people that pay for the game. If they don't like what you're doing, they're not paying, you're not making money. So the whole point is you want to sort of find a way to navigate it. You want to find a way to keep the good ideas from the community and filter out the bad ideas from the community. But in order to do that, you have to actually speak to your community. There has to be some level of conversation that takes place between you and the community. So I really hope that as time goes on, Blizzard do start speaking to us more. And Blizzard starts listening to us more. It seems like they're doing it. Let's hope they continue doing it. Because it is a lot more work. It's a lot more effort. Because you actually need the community managers to pay attention to what the community is actually up to. And what the community doesn't like. You need the game developers to actually play the game with the community to find out why they dislike certain things. Ultimately, I think this is a very good idea, and I think Blizzard is on the right track. We'll have to see if they can continue doing it, because it is a monstrous task. Yes, but 99% of player feedback is give me this thing. I want easier because I'm a lazy cunt. This is why I said it's about finding the... So, oftentimes you'll find that players are very bad at expressing or communicating their problems in an optimal way. So, for example, let's say that a player says, you have to make gearing easier because this is fucking annoying. I hate that I can't get the right gear. All right. The knee-jerk response is to just give players more gear. That solves the issue. But is that actually the issue? Fundamentally, is that actually the issue? So you have to start thinking about this. You have to say, okay, wait. What if the issue isn't the gear? What if the issue is the process through which people get the gear? So maybe people are so annoyed that they're not getting their gear because they hate the processes they have to go through in order to get the gear. It's boring to them. And that's why they just want the gear quickly so they can stop doing this thing. And that really is, I think, that's what separates a content creator from a game developer. There's more than that separates us, but fundamentally that's what separates us. My job is to talk about the problems. Blizzard's job is to figure out why those problems actually exist. So if players are complaining that they're not getting their gear quick enough, why is that a complaint? Maybe the journey needs to be fixed. So we have to make dungeons more interesting, or we have to make raids more interesting, or maybe we have to fix the way in which players are forced to do certain dungeons in certain ways. That's how you're supposed to figure it out. It can be troublesome, it can be fucking tedious, but if you nail it well. Preach is relevant to me anymore. I watched him as a resource. It's not like he has particularly witty repartee. So he's perfectly fine. Personality didn't grab me, but his understanding of WoW did. I can see that. I can respect that. Everyone has people they watch for their own reasons, Saban.
So that's something they've really changed as a core value inside. That's what they're telling me is like as a core, and Dragonflight's a demonstration of that. It's like, you know, we should be listening more to the direction the players are giving us, because clearly it's not worked. Hope they realize that, but hey, I mean, the proof's in the pudding. I cannot promise. Obviously, I cannot promise what's coming. I wouldn't even pretend to do that. Like, I purposely kept...
Dogvaz, you know for a fact that's not what I'm saying. But I'm also saying that. Okay, so as a content creator, I could ask you the same thing. So my job is to respond to every single one of my viewers whenever they say something? Technically, yes. Is it possible for me to respond to every single viewer whenever they say something? No. That's obviously not possible. But I have to respond as often as possible, right? As often as possible. So that will be the same thing for Blizzard. There are always going to be people that complain just for the sake of complaining. Because it's the nature of human beings. If someone got a blowjob every single day of his life, whenever he woke up and whenever he went to bed, he would complain that he's getting too many blowjobs. If he got no blowjobs, he would complain that he's not getting enough blowjobs. There's always going to be something to fucking complain about. There's always going to be someone that complains about something. But at the end of the day, it's your job to figure out, why are they complaining about it? And is it something that you can change? So if your boyfriend, for example, complains that you're giving him a blowjob, but the reason he's complaining actually is because you're a girl and he's actually more into guys, that's not something you can change. There's nothing you can do. You're not a guy. Therefore, it's not your blowjobs that's the issue. It's the fact that you don't have a penis that's the issue. So your boyfriend has to figure that out on his own. But if your boyfriend is complaining that you're using too much teeth while giving a blowjob, that is a you problem. That is a problem that you need to be able to solve, and the same would go either way, right? That's sort of the nature of being a game developer, I think.
Myself away from any specifics. I wanted to know what's changed internally. It's not 50 years of failure, right? World of Warcraft has been an absolutely dominant brand and still has a very, very massive player base. It was just a case of the direction's been a downward trend in a lot of areas. So what's the difference? What's happened? They've said that every expansion.
Snobby, how you doing?
Yeah, this isn't an expansion thing though. That's not. I wasn't talking about Dragonflight. I probably should make that clear. I wasn't there to talk about Dragonflight. I barely brought up Dragonflight like, at all. Like, I used the Dragonflight as a couple of examples. I was there to talk about Warcraft. Right? World of Warcraft. I was there to talk about World of Warcraft. I was not there to talk about Dragonflight. In fact, the reason this trip got cancelled originally, I was supposed to be there like a month or so ago, was because Blizzard was still figuring out what it is we wanted to do. And they were like, well, maybe we're going to announce the release date of Dragonflight on this date. So they told me when that was coming out. It's like, maybe we could tie that into the video. And I was like, nah, not really. Because one, we won't have the video done in time, just based on how it's going to be. And two, then it's kind of like a marketing thing. It comes across as like and they were like, well, we need something out of it. I was like, what you're going to get out of it is an honest impression.
Okay, so Saber Raven, you just said the one thing that I was hoping someone would bring up. This is why I said, as a game developer, you have to filter the information that you're getting. I literally just spoke about this. So, yes, did players complain that they couldn't get dungeons? Absolutely. Blizzard then went and said, okay, the fix is going to be LFG. As soon as LFG got introduced, LFG created a number of other problems. So this suggests that the original solution, LFG, was probably not the right solution. There could have been a better solution to the problem of players not finding groups. And the solution that Blizzard ultimately applied didn't actually solve the underlying problem. The problem is now just so much worse because now you still have the underlying problems, but just with another group of problems on top of that. So that's sort of that's the tricky bit of being a developer. You have to figure out what players are complaining about. Then you have to figure out what are players actually complaining about. Because those are not always the same. Many people don't know how to express themselves. The amount of times that I've had people tell me the story in WoW was shit. And then I go, why? And they go, well, it's just shit. I'm like, yeah, but why? Like, give me a fucking example. And it's not because I'm trying to catch them, it's actually a good story, asshole. Right? That's not why. I want to get like genuine feedback because in my videos I want to be able to discuss that. And it's just, it's just a shit story. I don't care about it. So wow, that's great feedback. I can really do nothing with that feedback other than the story didn't work for you. But then you start asking the right questions and you start finding out the story isn't relatable. They're not finding any characters that they like. The story goes too fast, or the story goes too slow, or the story is too rushed, or the story doesn't finish properly, whatever the case might be. So through asking questions, you start realizing, actually, it's not that the story is shit. It's that the player doesn't understand the story, or it's that the story doesn't respect itself, or whatever the case might be. But that's your job as a developer, is to try and figure that out. What is my job? What is the actual problem that we're dealing with here?
I feel going in. And it's good marketing all round that way. Instead of it being like, and Dragonflight announcement. Yeah, I don't think that'll be good.
Varuna, you bastard, with the 10 community subs, 10 new people for the meat grinder. I really appreciate that, Varuna. Thank you. Can we get some hearts in chat? 10 of you have now joined the DJ Nation. I appreciate you, fam. Thank you.
Are you able to talk WoW devs about how good the storytelling in FF is? Now they're inspired by it. A lot of them play Final Fantasy. Big shocker. Yeah, a lot of them play Final Fantasy. They're fully
Nemesis
aware.
T, you bastard. Thanks for the follow.
Aware.
Really appreciate that.
We talked about
Thank you.
quite a bit about Final Fantasy. With
Blood for the
people.
blood god.
Yeah.
Skulls for the skull.
Like, of course they do. They're not fucking stupid. They don't live in a Blizzard world.
Save it.
Yeah, they totally play FF. They know exactly what's going on in FF.
Poor
But, like, we all
Grofile.
agree.
Like, poor fucking Grofile. Savin Raven has a Prime sub ready, wants to use the Prime sub on the channel. Grofile doesn't have a Prime sub. And Grofile gets missed. Like, he dodges every single gifted sub like a boss. Can we get some Fs in chat for Grofile? Like, he's a Sag boy. Grofile, I'm sorry, I got that is just the funniest shit ever to me.
Like, FF storytelling in WoW wouldn't work at all.
Oh,
like, you
shit.
can't compare the two directly. They wouldn't fucking work. Yeah, they're gamers. Yes, we talked about so many games, not just like FF.
Oh,
and stuff. We talked
Faruna,
about tons
thank
of
you
games.
so much
I
for the
was finding
gifted
out
sub for
yesterday, this is John
Grofile.
Haidt. He's the
Hearts
manager of
in
all of
chat,
Warcraft, right?
ladies
the
and
franchise
gentlemen.
manager of all of
Hearts in
Warcraft, not just
chat.
World of Warcraft. This guy's
I
a mega
appreciate
cheese.
that, Faruna.
But his work background is nuts. Absolutely nuts. Red Alert 2, Neverwinter Nights, God of War. Where's the list? The list of stuff this guy has done is criminal.
Who are we talking about now?
This guy's a professor. He also wrote the book on game management. Literally,
John
he
Haidt.
wrote the book. That's where the book that you would study comes from him. He wrote it. His history is absolutely ludicrous. It really is. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Absolute Giga Chad. He literally wrote the book. He taught it at in California for years. So
I did not know that.
I only wish you could have interviewed me, Chris Metzen. Yeah, well, he's not there anymore. I can tell you wholeheartedly, Activision, like, they exist, but they are not close. You know, when you read on the forums, it's like, oh, well, since Activision came in, blah, 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 this has changed stuff. No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not in any way. Like, Activision is a thing, but it's not a thing.
Faruna, I can promise you, I will be playing it during the pre-patch. My current plan is to get back into Dragonflight either this week or next week. So we'll probably play some Dragonflight either this week or next week. It really depends. But I will definitely not be one of the eligible streamers to... Because Blizzard did say that if you watch eligible streamers, they'll give you drops and the chance for drops. That's not me. Blizzard will never work with me. Ever. Like, I won't get invited to jack shit when it comes to Blizzard. So I'm fairly certain that you guys are gonna have to go find your drop somewhere else. I wasn't approved for the last drops that Blizzard did. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be approved for these ones either. When was this? It was during... Yeah, it was for 9.1, I think. In 9.1, Blizzard did something with, like, Twitch streamers. And I wasn't approved for that. I wasn't allowed to be part of that. So I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be allowed to be part of this one either. Look, I've made a lot of people at Blizzard very angry at me. And that's fine. I told you guys earlier. That's just life, you know. I'm a little bit too honest. And when I say too honest, I mean I'm a little bit too much of a cunt. And that really spills over. I feel like it might have something... I'm just spitballing here. But it may have something to do with the fact that I called Ian a cunt. And then also Steve Denuser multiple times. That's just me sort of guessing. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that may have something to do with it. But you know, who knows? It might be something completely different. Thing is, you can gift pre-expansions now. Never could before. Wait, can you?
Blizzard, you were saying it for years. Yeah, I can tell you wholeheartedly, like, the closest communication seemingly they had, and I had this confirmed by multiple sources. It's
Taka,
like
I appreciate that,
occasionally
bro.
they send something to be on the launcher for the Battle.net launcher. Like, that was it.
But no, I've told you guys this before. I have one group of people that I feel responsible to. Not responsible for. You're not my fucking kids. I don't give a fuck what you guys do, and it's not up to me. But I feel responsible to you. And that's chat. That's it. It's just my community. I'm responsible to be... I'm required to be honest. I'm required to be authentic. And I'm required to entertain you. That's it. I have no allegiances to Blizzard or Activision or EA or any of these other people. I'm not in this for them. I didn't start my YouTube channel or my Twitch channel way back then thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be best friends with Blizzard. I'm going to be best friends with Ian. I'm going to get all these interviews. That's not why I started my content, and that's not why I do it now. I don't give a fuck about any of that. What I care about is just making you guys happy. So when I see a YouTube comment from someone, I literally got one yesterday. It was so fucking cool. Because it's been a while since I've got one of those. But someone just said, thank you so much for these uploads. I really love these videos. I usually listen to them while I'm at work. It makes me feel good. I'm not going to lie. That made me smile. I was like, oh my God, it feels good knowing that someone enjoys the content that I put out there. That's why I do this. I don't give a fuck about anything else. Like, the whole, like, working with Blizzard, getting drops and all that. Yeah, it's great for growth. But I'm not willing to sacrifice who I am for growth. That's just never gonna fucking happen for me. Calling someone a cunt isn't a challenge. It's an act of stupidity. Yeah, well, you're a cunt. I mean, what are you gonna do about it?
Kind of it. It was like...
Brandor, you can go fuck yourself with that one.
It was over there. Like, it was interesting talk. It's like, not over there. Yeah, you shill? Yeah, no, nothing at all. They were like, not interested.
He did.
No.
He did.
Like, sometimes they send us stuff to be on the launcher. Yeah, that's kind of it. But yeah, other than that. You have to be able to grow up now to engage UFF. It wouldn't appeal to the WoW crowd.
If
right?
anyone's watched this, are we done with like the WoW stuff?
Strength is its combat, right? Every step of the way. Which is why I wanted to talk to... I'll find it. I promise. Oh, look. I don't know what's happened to my face there. That is horrible. I can't see the thumbnails on his pictures, but we went to the beach with Max. Little beachy beach.
That is a big beach. Fuck.
Little beach. Oh, yeah, these two. So, Halinka and Graham here are the team behind WoW's combat.
Linka's pretty cool.
And talk about give a fuck. Talk about give a fuck. Chad squad. Absolute Chad squad. These are two people who could not have given more of a fuck. Like, baller. And it was so good to talk to Brian about not PvP. Because he's always the PvP guy. But he's in charge of WoW's combat. And WoW's strength has been its combat. So you couldn't put in, like, FF style, where you have 40 minutes of cutscenes, kill a bear, and then another hour of cutscenes. Like, that wouldn't work for World of Warcraft. No. So, yeah, Graham is one to watch. He's the Evoker designer, and his team. Again, I'm talking about, like, their teams, but very cool. Because I don't even know if someone was like, add a class to WoW and then consider how its approach and stuff works in PvE, PvP, outside world, and all that. That's a monumental undertaking, is how that works here. It was pretty awesome how they crowdsourced the Evoker ideas. Because they obviously, like I showed you on that little shitty timeline, like how long ago they were working on Dragonflight, is they literally got all the devs together in a big room and they were like, tell us the first thing you think of when you think about dragons so we can put it into the class. And they just had this fucking bowl of ideas. And then they just kind of tallied up like what was the most regular things, like deep breath, time magic, red magic, blue magic.
Black magic? Where's the fucking black magic?
And they just basically were like, oh, okay, well, that's the where we're going. That charge up mechanic is definitely outside of Blizz. That's him. And me and Brian both laughed because we both immediately turned off the charge up mechanic. And he was laughing his head off. He's like, well, it was like, he's him. Yeah, Graham's the one who came up with the hold the button down and release it. I was like, we immediately turned it off. And Brian was the same. It's like, my hands for World of Warcraft do not accommodate charging a spell up. Like, every muscle memory in these fingers does not work for charging spells up. So I immediately turned it off. And he was like, yeah, I thought people would do that. So, you know, we gave him the option to turn it off as well. But yeah, that's Graham. And he said, like, some people
it is going to be weird.
Really like it. Some people
charging
don't.
shit.
You have the choice for both. It's easy. It's a mobile thing. It's more, he wanted different, again, I don't think this will be in the main video, but we will release these entire interviews for our Twitch subs and stuff like that. It was more the case of how hard, this is what I wanted to talk to you about these two more than anything, is homogenization. And how much they fucking detest homogenization, like, internally. Like, so a big point was if we're going to bring a new class in, it can't work on a resource that already works, because that just leads to homogenization. We need it to be something different. So they've got the orb system with Evoker and charge up mechanics.
I haven't tried
like that.
I'll be honest, I haven't tried the new classes at all. I haven't tried the new talents. But it's interesting that they hate homogenization as much as they do. And yet, I don't think there's ever been a time in the history of World of Warcraft where classes have been more homogenized than in Shadowlands and BFA. In Shadowlands and BFA, there was you could play 60% of all the classes with the exact same keybinds and nothing would change. It would be the exact same amount of buttons that you press in the exact same order the whole fucking time. It was all builder spender shit. Like, yeah, okay, it had other resources, but the resource still ultimately translated to a builder spender. Right? That's all you did. Rockamus, thank you very much for the first time chat, dude. Really appreciate that. Welcome to the channel. Thank you. Maybe learn from the mistakes, clues. No, I do think that's exactly it, right? It is that sort of, and to be fair to Blizzard, and also, you know, to be fair to you, you do make mistakes, right? You go down this road, you think, okay, this is a great idea, and then you look back and you go, ooh, all right, we basically just made a whole bunch of the exact same fucking classes here, right? So maybe it is just something that they sort of figured it out as they went along. They realized, okay, wait, this is not working. This is definitely not how we want to design things. I do think the talents is just going to do a world of solving that, because you do have some level of control over how you want your class to play. And I realize people are going to come at me with the whole cookie cutter thing. It's fine. It's going to happen in every game. There's nothing we can do about that. But at least you get to decide this, and hopefully there's enough tools there to change things so that every class does have a unique playstyle and a unique feel. Because that's ultimately, you know, I don't want to log onto my warrior and then have the exact same playstyle as when I log on to my shaman and I'm playing my enhancement shaman. I don't want that. When I'm playing my warrior, I want to feel like I'm playing my warrior. When I play my shaman, I want to feel like I'm playing my shaman. And if everything is builder spender, then everything is functionally the exact same thing. And that gets really fucking boring. Jake, no. Well, my main has always been Affliction Warlock, not Demo. I've always been an Affliction Warlock first. That's the spec that got me into Warlock in the first place, was Affliction. And yes, I will still be maining a Warlock because it's the best class in the game. We've discovered this, or we discussed this years ago during a Legion video that I made. I don't even know what the video was called back then, but I basically explained why alpha males play Warlock and everyone else is beta. And I gave the evidence. It's all there, right? It's literally scientific. It wasn't like me just thinking things, like sucking things out of my thumb. It's scientific. If you're a beta cuck, you're not going to play Warlock. It's way too alpha. If like Paladins, for example, are probably the biggest cocks out there. Warriors are kind of Giga Chad, but not quite as Giga Chad as an Affliction or obviously Warlock. So, you know, I have a whole scientific exploration there on the different classes and type of players to play them. But yeah, I'm obviously an alpha, so I will obviously be playing Warlock. Unstoppable, thanks for the first chat. Did really appreciate that. Welcome to the channel, bro. Scots wear skirts and they're Giga Chad as they come. It's true. Well, I'll accept that comment of Paladins. My first WoW char ever was a Warlock. Fucking Giga Chad, bro. Based. Ferorius, how you doing, bro?
Focus for hunters. Yeah, exactly. Like more combo points and stuff. It's like they do not want homogenization. And do you remember my old school viewers will know this?
There you go.
Used to talk about moments of glory with the classes. The moments of glory that like really let your class let loose. That's just a real thing that they have internally. They call them hero moments internally. And they're like, yeah, we want to create hero moments for everybody. I was like, I talked about that years ago. And he's like, I know. And that isn't by design that we do that. By design, we want everybody to have their hero moment. And you can't do that with homogenization. It just doesn't work. Otherwise, we end up in a scenario where everybody could do the same fucking thing. Charging buttons isn't a mobile thing. I mean, I'm not going to... I don't care where it comes from. I'm just saying, like, from Graham's POV, it gave people the choice and it gave people different gameplay on the Evoker to enjoy. And it's like, well, what should we make it do? Do we want it to just do a shit more damage? That's boring. Let's make it do different things to make that work. So it was very cool. Everyone gets lay on hands. Yeah. Homogenization? What's the word? Homogenization. Homogenization.
I don't know, I enjoy it. Monks
everyone gets it all. Yeah, exactly.
I can only apologize.
About various moments where people could do really crazy things within certain limits, which is, you know, for me, it's like let loose.
I do think
it means everything's kind of the same. Yeah, homogenized.
Grandorius, I do think that's changing now. We used to only be foot soldiers, but clearly we're no longer. We are heroes. And if Blizzard can start pulling that off, and it's not hard. It's not as if that is impossible to do. The problem that World of Warcraft has is that we're the heroes, but more often than not, we're not part of the story. And that's really the only thing Blizzard needs to change, is if I'm going to be the hero, I also need to be the driver of the story. I can't just be the fucking pack mule. I can't just be the guy that does the dirty work. That's not what makes me a hero. If I'm a hero, you have to treat me as such. In other words, I should be part of the actual solutions that we come up with. And I do think, hopefully, Blizzard will start doing that a little bit more, especially in Dragonflight. We might see that play out. Let's wait and see. But yeah, I'm really hoping that Blizzard can start nailing that, because there's nothing wrong with being a hero. You see that very often, especially in Final Fantasy. In Final Fantasy, you are the hero. You are the savior of the world. That's literally what you are. And most of what you do in Final Fantasy reflect that. You're not just the hero in name. You are the hero, and they treat you as such. WoW needs to do that too. And if it does, there's no limit to how successful WoW can be.
Means that everybody kind of works very, very similarly. So FF leans more to homogenization. It still has obviously very differences, but in gameplay terms, it's like you've generally got like AoE, bigger AoE, proc AoE, single target, combo. You know, there's very
no, I have
styles
not.
That you can pick up. It's not all.
Ferorius, yeah, pretty much that. Give me 20 bear pelts and 7 bear asses, please. That shit's annoying. That shit needs to go. But no, for everyone that is wondering about my Final Fantasy journey, let me say that again. I haven't played Final Fantasy in months. I'm still in Stormblood. It's not because I dislike the game, it's just because I got busy with other things. And chat's been distracting me. For example, I am now almost considered a grandmaster at Warhammer lore. I'm lying though. I know barely anything, but I know a lot more than what I knew 3 months ago. But we've basically been going ham on the Warhammer lore. That's all we've been doing, just watching Warhammer videos every fucking stream. So I kind of got distracted. I will be back though, But right now, me and that Warhammer thing is just like, fuck yeah. I'm in love with Warhammer 40k.
All the way there. I mean, FF still has very distinct differences between the classes, but generally speaking, you can work them that they have similar buttons that achieve similar things.
Oh,
whereas they try to, they're very anti.
Not fair,
These guys
fuck
are
you.
actually massive
Fuck
customization fans.
Boys,
yes,
yeah, you know,
really.
bro.
Yeah, you can see that in the gameplay. Absolutely, really. But visually different, yes. So these guys are very focused on player choice
Not
and
yet,
customization.
Ace.
Like
Not
their
yet.
entire team loves customization as much as humanly possible. It's one of their main driving forces for the combat is as much customization as possible. Mop had the best combat split design. Did you talk about Mop at all? I don't think specifically. Did we talk about Mr. Pandaria? We talked about it as a whole instead of like again, try not to think of it as like an expansion by expansion basis. It was like, what is the core idea going forward? Especially next expansion.
I mean, I want to hear this next bit, so let me just show you. Right now, I'm playing. I can show you to give you an idea of just how fucked my gameplay is. So right now, I am playing Chaos Gate a few minutes here and there. I'll do maybe one mission, and then I'll play a bit of Company of Heroes. Then I'll play a bit of Space Marine. I tried a little bit of fucking New World. Did not like it. I couldn't play Darktide. I played a little bit of Witcher. I played a little bit of Factorio. These are the games that I've played just in the last 2 weeks. This is what I played, right? And then over on Microsoft, I play a little bit of Stellaris. That's when I get bored of the games on Steam. I'll play a little bit of Stellaris. Whenever this thing wants to fucking load in. I literally just finished Dragon Age Inquisition. That took almost 2 years. 2 years ago, I started my journey in Dragon Age Inquisition. I literally just finished it. I just started another playthrough of the Riftbreaker, because that game is sick as fuck. I haven't played Plague Tale Requiem yet, but I do want to. And then I'll probably restart Dragon Age at some point, but I think first I'm going to restart another one of Mass Effect. So that's how I play. Oh, and then in between I also play Cyberpunk every once in a while. The issue for me is I get very bored very quickly with almost everything. So I have to jump between video games the whole time in order to keep myself like interested in it. I tried 40k Mechanicus. I did not enjoy it. Women Must Love You, as you never finish, gives them time. Grandorius, I always win when it comes to goals. I always come first, because that way I can move on and do my own thing. It's not from someone who is... King Julian, what the fuck did you just type?
Liked what we talked about. Turned out to be an absolute real thing, I guess. Was that the new talent trees are going to be a bit of a shocker to a lot of people. So the talent trees for most classes are very similar to what you have in Shadowlands. So that if you're a non-elite player, like you're Mr. Casual... In fact, one of the big things they talked about,
which I
thought was really interesting, is how much in a good portion of players, combat is a pain in the ass. Like a massive pain in the ass. And it was a bit of an eye-opening experience. If your gameplay in World of Warcraft, and this will apply to any MMO whatsoever, right? This is across FF and everything else. Is if your core gameplay is you are like a mount collector, you like doing your dailies, you're not interested in very high-end gameplay. Like, let's just summarize it that way. You're more of the collector style. You're not interested in high-end Mythic Plus. You're not interested in Savage raiding. You're not interested in really organized, where your combat effectiveness is an issue, right? Let's say it that way. If you're not interested in that, then literally any change they do to the way your class plays is just a fucking pain in the ass. I just want to be able to play and get on with what I want to do. So when there's a new talent update, hotfixes, new stuff coming in, it's actually a hindrance, like a genuine turnoff. It's just annoying to those players. They just want to set up their character and go and do what they want to do and not have to worry or bother with like what's best or anything like that. And it's not because they're being egotistical in group content. They're like, well, I pay my sub, so I'm going to play that way. They just want to get on with what they want to do, and they're not remotely interested in what the next buff or hotfix is, or what got 5% more damage, or that certain talents are dead anymore. And every time that they do something dramatic,
That's wild.
like the talent tree update or a class overhaul, something like that, those players are just pissed off. Like, really pissed off. Like, I don't want to be arsed fucking messing around with the talent tree, which is exactly why they've done the pre-done loadouts for the talent trees. I would like to see the metrics on that, but obviously the pre-patch launched while I was at the campus, so I don't have they don't have the metrics for that, of how many people just chose the predetermined loadout and just got on with their day. Yeah, I would be really curious as how many people just went with the pre-done and just went with it, because...
Dude,
they were just
this is
saying, like,
wild.
One of the
Like, there's actually people like this. Oh my god, making my character for the first time. I usually do it offline because it would be super boring to watch me do it online. If I did that in a live stream, you guys would get super bored. It takes me... Fuck. The last time I set up my Warlock, it took me... All things considered, all of the bars and everything, you know, getting my UI perfect the way that I want it for raiding, 10, 12 hours? You know, and that includes, so the UI was probably about 2.5, 3 hours to get my UI right, because I kind of know what I'm doing there quick. But then it comes to the min-maxing stuff. So now I'm starting to run different fucking sims. I'm testing things out on the dummy. I'm going into a dungeon, seeing how that fucking takes. Does this work? Does that work? What do I like? What don't I like? What kind of fucking movement abilities do I enjoy? What don't I enjoy? It takes a good 10 and 12 hours to get my character set up to the point where now I'll play. Because during that time, I'll also move things like spells around on my bars. Because I'll learn, oh wait, no, I don't, this spell can't be on like 1. I press it far too often. It can't be on 4 because it's not the most often. I'm going to put this on 7 because I do press it often enough that 7 is easier than 1, but I don't press it often enough that it needs to take 5, 6 or 3, 2. So, you know, I'm constantly just fucking moving things around and putting things in new positions. It takes a fucking age, and I love doing that shit. Because I know by the time I'm finished, my character's perfect. This is how I can play. And then whenever I learn that things are changing, I'm like, here we go. Oh, fuck. Are we dropping frames? The internet is dropping. Or the internet was dropping. Let's just say that. But okay.
biggest challenges World of Warcraft has got right now is the spectrum of skill is so ridiculous. So ridiculous. And it's getting wider and wider and wider. And Max had a good point on this. It's like, if it wasn't for like the Liquid Echo War, how much that has pushed them both, and guarantee that both teams would be considerably worse players. The skill spectrum is massive because obviously the low end never changes, but the top end is constantly moving further and further away from the beginning. And there's huge amounts of players. Because one of the questions I was really adamant about is like, what do players do? Because we see it on the forums all the time, right? Which is, what's the phrase that's used all the time on forums? Vast majority.
Yeah.
The vast majority. The vast majority of players do X. And everybody who says that believes they're a reasonable person, right? They believe they're a reasonable person. So I, as a reasonable person, believe that the vast majority does X, right? The vast majority doesn't care about Mythic Plus. The vast majority doesn't care about pet battles. The vast majority doesn't care about X, Y, and Z. The vast majority are super casual players. So when I was talking with Ian, I was like, what does a fucking player in World of Warcraft do? It's kind of how I put it. I was like, so what do players do? I need to know, like, because we don't know, and we try and guess, and we try and figure it out, but obviously they've got the metrics and all this kind of stuff for what these players do. And he was like, bro, everybody does everything. Like, There's a guy who does high-end Mythic Plus and collects every pet battle in the game. There's a guy who's never seen a raid and does all that stuff. There's a guy who's never seen daily content but does raiding and dungeons all day, every day.
That is bullshit. A guy that's never seen daily content but does high-end raiding in BFA and Shadowlands? How though? Like, how in the fuck are you doing your conduits but you're not doing dailies? That's just bullshit. That's not happening. In Old WoW, yes, I can believe that. In Old WoW, I'll never forget this, guys. I will never forget this. Do you guys remember the launch of Mr. Pandaria when it basically became World of Dailycraft? I don't know if you guys remember that. But I made this goal. She was a PvPer. And we were sort of talking. I was nearing my point of no return. I was nearing my point of just wanting to quit the game. Because just too many dailies and I had work and, you know, it's a whole bad time for me. But I made this goal and we got to chatting. And she's like, oh, why do you want to quit? I'm like, oh, I can't do all the dailies. There's just so many fucking dailies. And she was like, what dailies? I'm like, the dailies. The dailies that you have to do every day in order to get your gear. And she's like, I haven't done any dailies. I'm like, wait, you've never done a daily? And she's like, no, I just PvP. I was like, what the fuck, bro? What? Like, you can just PvP? Like, I can't. If I want to raid, I have to do all these fucking dailies. Like, that was wild to me. To just meet someone that's just never. They have no idea what all this fucking daily nonsense is. Felt so fucking good. Yeah, the classes in MoP was actually very good.
Literally, this idea of the vast majority is nonsensical. It's just the person does different bits of everything all the time, depending on what they're interested in. They just do know anything but PvP. Some guy, but they will do something else, whatever they do. The other no daily guy, right? Exactly. It was like this idea of the vast majority leans one way or the other is just not fucking true. Everybody does a little piece of everything. So,
but that's the trick. That is absolutely the trick, and this is where I think Dragonflight is getting it right. It is that everyone is doing a little bit of everything, so you have to design the game in such a way that everyone can do what they like. And Dragonflight is going to do exactly that, which, you know, is the things that we complain about with Shadowlands and BFA. Because they built these things that you have to do, rather than just building the things that you can do. So I really think Dragonflight is just going to be such an eye-opener for so many players. I think so many players are going to be so happy with Dragonflight. Because they're finally going to be able to play the game the way that they want to play it. Without having to worry about nonsense or bullshit or, you know, this going on or that going on or, you know, all sorts of weird shit. I genuinely think a lot of players are going to be very happy with how Dragonflight plays out. And I really hope that, especially for all of you super casuals. And do we have any super casuals in chat? Alpin, how you doing? Do we have any, like, super casual? Like, you do your, like, you don't even do dungeons. You just hunt stuff and collect stuff and all the rest of it. You don't give a fuck about raiding or, like, Mythic Plus or anything like that. Pringles, I do think a lot of WoW quitters will resub. Yes. If of course, things stay as true as they are. I'm so casual, I don't play. I'm super casual now, at least. I'm super casual, I collect stuff, even in raiding. So, for the ultra casual, I really hope that Blizzard provides you with enough activity to at least give you new things to look forward to. That you don't have to spend all of your time hunting the old things in the game, but that there are actually a lot of new things that you can experience and do. And, you know, because a lot of these super casual collectors in World of Warcraft are oftentimes punished by, you know, the only real game that exists for you is the past. because that's where you go. You have all these old dungeons where maybe you have mounts there, maybe you have pets there, maybe there's still a transmog or two that you need from there, and you're just running the same old dungeon every single day hoping for it to drop. So I really hope that, Blizzard truly give you just a crap ton of stuff that you can do in this expansion. As a non-WoW player, DF looks enticing because I think dragons are badass. I think DF is gonna be insane. That's my thought at the moment, based on what I see, not based on playing it, just based on what I see. I think DF is exactly what I wanted for this game.
It's about making sure that each of these areas is catered to, and it's really hard because the game's so big and the skill spectrum's so big. There are some players who barely ever press buttons. And we talked specifically about alter time. I talked to this with the combat team. Is how do they balance this? So if you don't know what I'm talking about here, like alter time is one of my favorite spells ever. The original alter time in World of Warcraft. And if you could min-max alter time, kata period, WOD maybe, around that area. The snapshotting version. Yes, the snapshotting version of alter time. Now, I remember in an interview is that it turned out, and it really upset me this, is like 2% of mages ever pressed alter time. And so they got rid of it. And because nobody was fucking pressing it. Like, it was something like 2% of mages ever pressed alter time. And from my perspective, I was like, that is madness, because alter time is one of the most fun and useful spells ever. But like, statistically, none of the mages pressed it. They just ignored it. And now they had this thing that was lying around. And so we got into the discussion with these two. It's like, where do you draw that line when there's this very powerful ability? And it came down to, it's an education problem. That's what it is. It's an education problem. Like the players, most players probably looked at alter time as some sort of mana regen ability, and they never run out of mana. So it's kind of stupid. Or it's a movement ability, but they have 2 blinks. So, like,
I will say it's not really about that. So the reason I don't like that, really appreciate you coming out, Valak. Take care of yourself, brother. The reason I don't like that response, so the reason they removed it is because only 2% of all mages ever used it. That's not a reason to remove something. I'll tell you why. There are, in my opinion, the perfect class design in World of Warcraft goes as follows. It is easy enough to get into. It is kind of challenging to learn how to play competently. It is fucking very difficult to master. That is the perfect class design. What do I mean when I say competent play? Competent play means that you can play, you can do heroic fairly easily. You shouldn't spend too much time on heroic. And mythic you're going to be able to complete, but it might take you the full patch cycle. So the 6 months that it takes for a new raid to come out, it's going to take you all of that to actually complete the mythic. And then when you master your class, this is where you're talking about the guys that's in the top 1,000 in the world in guild status, even down to the top 200, maybe even top 100. This is where you learn how to master it. So something like alter time becomes incredibly important to that group because they're the ones that care about min-maxing. And I do think that there should be abilities like that in the game. I'll give you another example of an ability that was barely ever used by Warlocks. I know this because I saw the logs. I looked at so many Warlock logs because, if you guys don't know, I started my channel originally making Warlock guides. And from Warlock Guides I went into, all the other shit that I do. But I used to look at Warlock Guides Warlock logs all the time. Soul Swap. Soul Swap was probably one of the most broken abilities as an Affliction Warlock. The ability to apply all of your dots with one click. Because if you had the macro, it was literally one click. It would take the abilities off of your main target and it would swap it instantly to your focus target and you would instantly get both targets just ticking down with damage. It was insane how much damage you could do because you lost literally one global cooldown in order to apply 6 dots. 2 targets. That was insane. Almost no one used it because no one saw the point. It's like, oh, yeah, I just throw a couple of dots on there. It's instant. Who gives a shit? Well, you know, you take... Let's add the 0.5 global cooldown, or let's add the 1 second global cooldown. It takes you probably 12 seconds to apply all of your dots. It takes me 7, if we include the soul swap global cooldown. It takes me 7 seconds. So I have spent 5 to 6 more seconds than you draining soul. So I've already drained soul for 6 seconds. That's 2 full drained souls that I've gotten off before you even start your first drain soul, and you're going to end your drain soul cycle long before me, because you're going to have to reapply your dots much sooner than what I will have to reapply my dots. So that was just sort of like broken. It broke my brain when I saw Warlocks just completely negating it. But it was fine, because that was the difference between the high-level Warlocks and the mediocre Warlock. That was the difference. If you just wanted to play the game, you just wanted to fun, who gives a shit? Don't use soul swap. It's not important. You'll do enough damage, even if you don't soul swap. But it should be allowed for the high-level player to set themselves apart from the riffraff, as it were.
It comes down to education on that matter, as to how do we make players aware of some of the abilities they've got. So that's a big piece of work they're working on right now, is to not lose fun abilities in the future.
I agree with that, Saban.
As much. But try and find better ways of educating players on these abilities and how so they know. Because they could come to guides, but if you're going to Twitch, like, you know, if you're here right now, you're part of the hardcore, whether you like it or not, or you say you're super casual. The fact that you're listening to me talk about this stuff puts you in the hardcore loop. Compared to a lot of players who don't want anything to do with that kind of stuff. Sorry, you're in the hardcore because you know all this stuff. You might not.
I should probably point out that Preach has a point. When I asked most of you, how many of you are casuals, you all lied to me. Because technically speaking, did you guys know that there are a group of gamers that has never watched a single World of Warcraft content creator on YouTube or Twitch? Never. They don't see the point. They just play the game. You know, they log in, they have no idea about all the drama bullshit. They don't look at the news of World of Warcraft stuff. They don't care. They simply log in, they play their game, they log out, and that's it. They just have fun, you know? The game isn't that for them. They have maybe full-time jobs. So when they get home at the end of a long day, they don't have time to go look at a guide of how to play their class. What they want is to just play their game for a little. So the fact of the matter is, all of you liars need to apologize. You guys are fucking hardcore, 100%. And here I am, Mr. Ed, I appreciate the fuck out of you. I never did until I got sick and needed something to do. Fairly, there you go. Are you better now, though, Fairly? Leveling is very good for people like that. I mean, everyone plays the game the way that they play it, right? And I don't want to take anything away from them, but I could not play the game the way. I need to know what happens in the game. I need to know what all the hardcore people are doing, and I need to know that I'm doing it better or at least the same.
Play it, but if you're in a Twitch chat or you're watching guides on YouTube,
Fairly,
or you're going to Icy Veins or Wowhead and...
Nice. I'm glad to hear that you're better. Can we get some hearts in chat? Fairly kicking cancer's ass. I'm really happy to hear you're better. I'm working and watching this at the same time. Myth busted. Mythhammer, your boss is going to have your balls, bro.
Reading stuff. You're in the hardcore. You're not in the general populace who may have struggled to do Proving Grounds back in Mr. Pandaria, which was, we talked about Proving Grounds because we got into the topic of education and how to make that better. Because I was forward on the idea that I would have liked to see, and we were going to make an add-on for this. We were going to make an add-on that you could turn on privately, so nobody knows you're doing it, which I think is a big deal. There's a lot of like perceived shame in World of Warcraft that would give you voice tutorials of things that were going on in LFR, in early Mythic Plus, so you could kind of understand what was going on. Because often, and they're trying to fix that with the new Mythic Plus changes, is they're going to cycle them through because the level of education the regulars have is so much higher than an actual casual player who's jumping into the game, and they have to accommodate everybody. Third party, well, I was okay with third party. Make the game bad for people that care, so it's easy to barely...
I do think that Final Fantasy has this problem mainly sorted out. Because in Final Fantasy, as you unlock more abilities, those abilities just sort of naturally slot into your rotation. You get your abilities kind of to unlock in the order that you will use them in anyway. With the exception of a few, right? There are some abilities that doesn't make a whole lot of sense until someone tells you, or until you kind of read the tooltips, because the tooltips are very good there. So for example, you have these abilities that will cost super slow, but then if you read the tooltip, you find, no, actually this ability is supposed to be instant, but it's only instant if these things happen. So you need to do these things in order to get that thing to be instant so that you can use it. So the tooltips sort of guide you on how to play it. WoW can definitely do something like that, where they maybe put a lot more effort into allowing their tooltips to ensure that people know how to play it well, if that makes sense. Because, yeah, a lot of the time there are abilities that don't make a lot of sense on the face of it. If you've ever read the Soul Swap the Soul Swap tooltip makes it sound like you store because that's what it said effectively. You you make a copy of the dots on a target, and then you can store it for later use. That's what the tooltip effectively said. Now, if you're a nub that knows nothing, what does that tooltip tell you about this ability? Not much, right? It doesn't really inform you on how you should be using this ability. Because for a lot of fucking, proper casual players, they read that and they go, well, I've got my dots right here. Why do I need to store them? Screw it. I don't need to store them at all. I even saw people using, and I fucking kid you not, I saw people using Soul Swap. This was in the first, the first iterations of Soul Swap. They would pull their dots off the target, right? Because it would stay on you, so you'd get a debuff as soon as you pulled the dots, so you could use it in a window. So they would wait until the boss was, or the target was almost dead, pull their dots, and then, until their dots are almost fallen off, they would pull the dots and then throw the dots right back onto the same target. So they basically used it as an insta apply of the dots. The problem is the dots go up at the exact time that you pulled them off. So you're winning maybe 10 extra seconds. And also you're wasting an ability that could be used for other things. Because that's how the tooltips read. The tooltips don't tell you what this is actually supposed to do. So Blizz could definitely do more work in that.
Okay, that's the wrong approach. It's more a case of you're creating a delta. As the way I saw it, you're creating a delta between the best players and the average player that's almost unimaginably large. And how are you educating the players on what the problem is? Like, if you've ever looked at what a log or something, right? You're in the ridiculous top end of people researching their class. If you've ever looked at a log and started going through stuff. So education's a big part of it. It's like, we talked about old combustion. It's like needing add-ons to make the best use of a DPS cooldown, like old combustion, where you had to track all the ignite procs and stuff. Is just ridiculous. You shouldn't have to do that. Like, if you're using add-ons to min-max things, that's one thing, but requiring an add-on to make your DPS cooldown is just dumb.
Yeah, but old combustion was super fun.
So it's pretty good. Actually, use the actual CPU. That's from Patchwork Sims. Yeah. I've asked Tommy to put add-ons to the game after Radio.io and Bartender. No, we didn't talk about UI stuff. No, that wasn't part of my goal while I was there. I did not talk to the UI team. I don't think the UI team was on site at all. So yeah, we didn't do that. I see a lot of crits. I know it's good times to combust. I crit a lot of time. One of my biggest drawbacks from WoW are the add-ons. I can't be asked to install 100 add-ons for raiding, and he talks about that. No, and I don't think that's relevant now either with the UI changes. I think if you're a serious raider, you're going to want probably weak auras. You don't need them, but you probably want weak auras and a boss timer, but that's 2 add-ons. I do feel that the add-on thing is exaggerated more than it's...
No, I don't... It's exaggerated, but also not exaggerated. But at the end of the day, if you... World of Warcraft is currently in a really bad spot because most players have gotten so used to their add-ons, like DBM, like Big Wigs, like Weak Auras, that if you remove them now, the player base feels like they lost something. And that's usually a feeling that you want to avoid. You don't want to make people feel... This is why it's almost always better to buff classes than what it is to nerf classes. Because if you buff classes, everyone feels good. They just got a buff. They feel so much better. If you nerf a class, what the fuck? Right? And even if you were overpowered, usually the community feeling is they just broke it. I'm the worst fucking class now in the game, right? So people don't like being nerfed. People don't like things being taken away from them. And I feel like we're at that point with World of Warcraft where a lot of these add-ons have become such a staple part of people's playstyles or people's playstyle that if you remove them now, a lot of people are going to be super angry that you removed something that they have gotten so used to. I do think that there's some level of changes that have to be made to those add-ons functionality, but at the end of the day, I don't think removing it is the right way. Paramonster and Tree of Savior. How can you miss when the big fucking boss is waving his arms and yelling something? How can you not know he's trying to kill you? Like, just look at the screen. Each instance is a dance. If you pay attention, it's a song you learn. Are you talking about World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy?
Actually realistic. Well, you could argue that weak auras is essentially installing 1,000 add-ons. I mean, it could do so much shit. So you could look at it from that perspective, but most of the time you're probably just copying and pasting a weak aura. And like, here's the weak aura for this boss. Go. In fact, I remember Deep Shades told me he had a 5.
Caleb, not really, no. Because those add-ons are made special due to their ability to be modified. Their modification comes from the fact that there are communities that inform their development. If Blizzard took over those add-ons would almost definitely have to be standardized to the point where a lot of their functionality might be lost either way. So it's almost better to leave that in the hands of the community because they know what they want and they know what they want to track and they know how they want to attract it or how they want to track it. So I wouldn't give that shit to Blizzard, no.
Add-on cap, which is why his UI looked the way it did. He had a very limited amount of add-ons in there. How do you deal with the criticism of people about you and WoW? I don't care. I mean, I really could not give a fuck. I really don't care. I will do whatever I think's best and be as honest as I can about it. I really...
All right, just for anyone that's saying Elon Musk should buy YouTube. Even if we said that that would be a good idea, which I'm not sure if it would be, I don't really care either way. He wouldn't be able to afford YouTube. Just straight up, wouldn't be able to. Of all the social media companies, Twitter is the smallest by a mile. YouTube is the largest by a mile. Yeah, ABC or Alphabet, I like to call them ABC, but Alphabet, the company that owns the parent company of Google being the parent company of YouTube, they would first and foremost never let YouTube go because YouTube is how they advertise and advertising is their entire industry. But more importantly, Elon, I don't think Elon has enough money to even begin to buy it. I don't think Elon could even buy 50% of it. YouTube would be far too expensive because YouTube is actually making money. It's not like Twitter that was basically not really making a lot of money. YouTube actually makes a lot of money. So I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Not asked about toxic people or anybody shitting all over me. I really couldn't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I really don't give a shit. I've never lied to you guys. Everything I've ever said has been out there is still out there. It's not like I've ever taken down anything I've said because it's like, oh, I lied or I'm gonna get that twisted in the future. Everything I've ever said is still out there. I really don't give a shit. And as far as I know, I've never gone back on my word, so that's good. And you guys are free to call me out on that shit as well, because it's all up there. What will they do with talents in the future? Oh yeah, that's where I was going with it. So, okay, so the talents coming into Dragonflight, we went on that roundabout houses about how casual the casual player is. So coming into Dragonflight, the talent system is like pretty simple. If you've played Shadowlands, you could probably, even if you're like a pretty average player, you could pick your way through the new talent trees and kind of know what you're getting at the end of it, right? You should be, if you're a Death Knight, you know what Death Coil is, you know what Bone Shield is, you know what's going on here. You can sort of figure it out yourself, and that's the idea. If you're completely uninterested, you can use the pre-made loadout. But for anybody who's higher end, mid to higher end, you should be able to go through the new Dragonflight talent tree and figure out where you're going. Next expansion, though, and I asked these two, it's like, are we going to get silly with it? And he had a little grin on his face. Mr. Brian had a little grin, and so did Graham. It's like, because they're already working on the next expansion, right? There's the ideas are being put together, some preliminary work's being done on whatever the next expansion is. We could probably get a little silly with it. Because now you'll be used to it. Now you know what the talent tree is like. Now you will look forward to getting extra talents.
Oh, no, that's when we're getting the good talents, boys. Not now.
You've got some video. Where am I looking, pal?
It's on the C drive.
What am I looking at?
Blizz. We would just suggest playing it with no sound. Just
Play it with no sound.
Yeah, we haven't gone through it and checked, so we don't know if there's anything sus.
There's nothing super secret on here, I assume?
We don't think, not visually.
Okay, I'll know if we go anywhere super secret.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just some background B-roll. Hold on, I need to mute this. One play. Go.
Add-ons is and isn't needed, Queen. So if you're just playing very sort of normally, and say if the highest you ever do is heroic, you absolutely do not need add-ons. I think Shadowlands, the final raid, was the first time ever that I saw a heroic boss that required add-ons. It was the fourth boss. I can't remember its name now, but that was that's the only time I can even remember. But if you're going to like mythic raiding, that's where requiring add-ons becomes a little bit more important, because a lot of mythic raiding is about pre-planning. It's about knowing what is coming so that you can position yourself ahead of time, because a lot of the time you'll have abilities that require opposite things to happen. So you need to know that in about 30 seconds from now, there's going to be an ability that requires you to spread. But then literally after that ability, there's going to be an ability that requires you to stack. So you and your group have to figure out where you're going to spread and then where you're going to stack in such a way that everyone can be there in order to stack. Because otherwise everyone dies. So it's kind of like it depends on the difficulty of what you're doing. But even then, you could probably do it, but it's going to be super fucking hard to do. It's more than just markers. It's also the tracking of the ability, right? So in World of Warcraft, if you have something like DBM or Bigwigs installed, it will give you an actual timer that tells you when abilities are happening when, right? Which abilities are happening when. And there are abilities, there's been bosses in the past where literally in 30 seconds, you're going to have to spread 8 yards apart. Now, for that, you need an add-on that tells you what 8 yards is. Because literally, let's say at 33 seconds, there comes an ability that requires you to stack. Because all damage will be shared amongst all players. Alright, now You then need a range meter from DBM that gives you a little sonar range, and it tells you whenever someone is in your range, so that everyone can stack around a certain point when that ability comes up, and or so that everyone can stack but also spread on a certain around a certain point, and then immediately run to that point in order to be stacked, so that everyone survives all of the damage. If you try and do that without an add-on, you're talking about incredible coordination, and also, you know, there are some classes that will just not be able to do anything either way. If you're a mage, you could probably stack wherever and you can blink to the place where you have to stack with your group. But if you're a warlock, for example, you're going to find that difficult because most of your movement speed abilities require planning. So if you don't have your portal up at the time, you won't get in. So, you know, things like that, where add-ons just make the game a hell of a lot easier.